Bereshith. Genesis, chapter 1. In the beginning Elohim created the Shamayim and the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Ruah of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. And Elohim said, Let light come to be, and light came to be. And Elohim saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim separated the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, day 1. And Elohim said, Let an expanse come to be in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And Elohim made the expanse, and separated the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it came to be so. And Elohim called the expanse Shamayim. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the 2nd day. And Elohim said, Let the waters under the Shamayim be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it came to be so. And Elohim called the dry land earth, and the collection of the waters he called seas. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, Let the earth bring forth grass, the plant that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it came to be so. And the earth brought forth grass, the plant that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the 3rd day. And Elohim said, Let lights come to be in the expanse of the Shamayim to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the expanse of the Shamayim to give light on the earth. And it came to be so. And Elohim made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And Elohim placed them in the expanse of the Shamayim to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the 4th day. And Elohim said, Let the waters teem with shoals of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth on the face of the expanse of the Shamayim. And Elohim created great sea creatures, and every living creature that moves, with which the waters teemed, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim Barak them, saying, Bear fruit and increase, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the 5th day. And Elohim said, Let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, livestock and creeping creatures and beasts of the earth, according to its kind. And it came to be so. And Elohim made the beast of the earth according to its kind, livestock according to its kind, and all that creep on the earth according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the Shamayim, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over all the creeping creatures that creep on the earth. And Elohim created the man in his image. In the image of Elohim he created him, male and female he created them. And Elohim barak them. And Elohim said to them, Bear fruit and increase, and fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the Shamayim, and over all creatures moving on the earth. And Elohim said, See, I have given you every plant that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it is for food, and to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the Shamayim, and to every creeping creature on the earth, in which there is breath of life, every green plant is for food. And it came to be so. And Elohim saw all that he had made, and see, it was very good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the 6th day. Chapter 2. Thus the Shamayim and the earth were completed, and all their array. And on the 7th day Elohim completed his work which he had done. And he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim Barak the 7th day, and made it Kodesh, because on it he rested from all his work which Elohim in creating had made. These are the births of the Shamayim and the earth when they were created, in the day that the Most High Elohim made earth and Shamayim. Now no shrub of the field was yet on the earth, and no plant of the field had yet sprung up, for the Most High Elohim had not sent rain on the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. But a mist went up from the earth, and watered the entire surface of the ground. And the Most High Elohim formed the man out of dust from the ground, and breathed into his nostrils breath of life, and the man became a living being. And the Most High Elohim planted a garden in Eden, to the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground the Most High Elohim made every tree grow that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, with the tree of high in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divided, and became 4 riverheads. The name of the first is Pishon. It is the one surrounding the entire land of HalleluYAH, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. Bdellium is there, and the Shoham stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one surrounding the entire land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. It is the one which goes toward the east of Ashur. And the fourth river is Perath. And the Most High Elohim took the man, and put him in the garden of Eden to work it, and to guard it. And the Most High Elohim commanded the man, saying, Eat of every tree of the garden, but do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall certainly die. And the Most High Elohim said, It is not good for the man to be alone. I am going to make a helper for him, as his counterpart. And from the ground the Most High Elohim formed every beast of the field and every bird of the Shamayim, and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called each living creature, that was its name. So the man gave names to all livestock, and to the birds of the Shamayim, and to every beast of the field. But for the man there was not found a helper for him, as his counterpart. So the Most High Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall on the man, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh in its place. And the rib which the Most High Elohim had taken from the man he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. And the man said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This one is called woman, because she was taken out of man. For this cause a man shall leave his father and mother, and join unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, yet they were not ashamed. Chapter 3. And the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field which the Most High Elohim had made. And he said to the woman, Is it true that Elohim has said, Do not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, We are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, Do not eat of it, nor touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, You shall certainly not die. For Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise. And she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made loin coverings for themselves. And they heard the sound of the Most High Elohim walking about in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Most High Elohim among the trees of the garden. And the Most High Elohim called unto Adam, and said to him, Where are you? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself. And he said, Who made you know that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat? And the man said, The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. And the Most High Elohim said to the woman, What is this you have done? And the woman said, The serpent deceived me, and I ate. And the Most High Elohim said to the serpent, Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all livestock, and more than every beast of the field. On your abdomen you are to go, and eat dust all the days of your life. And I put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall crush your head, and you shall crush his heel. To the woman he said, I greatly increase your sorrow, and your conception bring forth children in pain. And your desire is for your husband, and he rules over you. And to the man he said, Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, Do not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you are to eat of it all the days of your life, and it shall bring forth thorns and thistles for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you are to eat bread until you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you return. And the man called his wife's name Yahuah, because she became the mother of all living. And the Most High Elohim made coats of skin for the man and his wife, and dressed them. And the Most High Elohim said, See, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put out his hand, and take also of the tree of Ahayah, and eat, and live forever. So the Most High Elohim sent him out of the Garden of Eden to till the ground from which he was taken. And he drove the man out. And he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword which turned every way, to guard the way to the tree of Ahayah. Chapter 4. And Adam knew Yahuah his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gained a man from the Most High. And again she gave birth to his brother Hebel. And Hebel became a keeper of sheep, but Cain became a tiller of the ground. And it came to be, in the course of time, that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to the Most High. And Hebel also brought of the firstborn of his flock, and of their fat. And the Most High looked to Hebel and his offering, but he did not look to Cain and his offering. And Cain was very wroth, and his face fell. And the Most High said to Cain, Why are you wroth, and why is your face fallen? If you do well, is there not acceptance? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should master it. And Cain told Hebel his brother, Come, let us go into the field. And it came to be, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Hebel his brother, and killed him. And the Most High said to Cain, Where is Hebel your brother? And he said, I do not know. Am I my brother's guard? And he said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. And now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. If you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. And Cain said to the Most High, My wickedness is too great to bear. See, you have driven me from the face of the ground today, and I am hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and it shall be that anyone who finds me kills me. And the Most High said to him, Well, if anyone kills Cain, vengeance is taken on him sevenfold. And the Most High placed a sign for Cain, lest anyone finding him kills him. So Cain went out from the presence of the Most High, and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Hanok. And he built a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Hanok. And to Hanok was born Elrad. And Elrad brought forth Mahail. And Mahail brought forth Methusael. And Methusael brought forth Lamech. And Lamech took for himself 2 wives. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the second was Silla. And Adah bore Yabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents, with livestock. And his brother's name was Ubal. He was the father of all those who play the lyre and flute. As for Silla, she also bore Tubal-Cain, a smith of all kinds of tools in bronze and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said to his wives Adah and Silla, Hear my voice, wives of Lamech, listen to my words. For I have killed a man for wounding me, even a young man for hurting me. For Cain is avenged 7-fold, and Lamech 77-fold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and called his name Sheth, for Elohim has appointed me another seed instead of Hebel, because Cain had slain him. And to Sheth to him also a son was born, and he called his name Enosh. Then it was begun to call on the name of the Most High. Chapter 5. This is the book of the genealogy of Adam. In the day that Elohim created man, he made him in the likeness of Elohim. Male and female he created them, and he Barak them, and called their name Adam in the day they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and brought forth a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Sheth. And after he brought forth Sheth, the days of Adam were 800 years. And he brought forth sons and daughters. So all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Sheth lived 105 years, and brought forth Enosh. And after he brought forth Enosh, Sheth lived 807 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. So all the days of Sheth were 912 years, and he died. And Enosh lived 90 years, and brought forth Canaan. And after he brought forth Canaan, Enosh lived 815 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. So all the days of Enosh were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 70 years, and brought forth Mahalalel. After he brought forth Mahalalel, Canaan lived 840 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. So all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalalel lived 65 years, and brought forth Yerd. And after he brought forth Yerd, Mahalalel lived 830 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. So all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. And Yerd lived 162 years, and brought forth Hanok. And after he brought forth Hanok, Yerd lived 800 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. So all the days of Yerd were 962 years, and he died. And Hanok lived 65 years, and brought forth Methuselah. And after he brought forth Methuselah, Hanok walked with Elohim 300 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. So all the days of Hanok were 365 years. And Hanok walked with Elohim. Then he was no more, for Elohim took him. And Methuselah lived 187 years, and brought forth Lamech. And after he brought forth Lamech, Methuselah lived 782 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. So all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years, and brought forth a son, and called his name Noah, saying, This one comforts us concerning our work and the toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Most High has cursed. And after he brought forth Noah, Lamech lived 595 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. So all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah brought forth Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Chapter 6. And it came to be, when men began to increase on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men, that they were good. And they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And the Most High said, My Ruah shall not strive with mankind forever in his going astray. He is flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of Elohim came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, the men of Noon. And the Most High saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Most High was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. And the Most High said, I am going to wipe off man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping creature and birds of the Shamayim, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Most High. This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with Elohim, and Noah brought forth 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. And Elohim looked upon the earth, and saw that it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And Elohim said to Noah, The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And see, I am going to destroy them from the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and outside with tar. And this is how you are to make it. The length of the ark is 300 amah, its width 50 amah, and its height 30 amah. Make a window for the ark, and complete it to an amah from above, and put the door of the ark in its side. Make it with lower, second, and third decks. And see, I myself am bringing floodwaters on the earth, to destroy all flesh, in which is the breath of life from under the Shamayim. All that is on the earth is to die. And I shall establish my covenant with you, and you shall come into the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. And of all the living creatures of all flesh, 2 of each you are to bring into the ark, to keep them alive with you, a male and a female, of the birds after their kind, and of the cattle after their kind, and of all creeping creatures of the earth after their kind. 2 of each are to come to you, to keep them alive. As for you, take of all food that is eaten, and gather it to yourself, and it shall be food for you and for them. And Noah did according to all that Elohim commanded him, so he did. Chapter 7. And the Most High said to Noah, Come into the ark, you and all your household, because I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. Of all the clean beasts take with you 7 pairs, a male and his female, and of the beasts that are unclean too, a male and his female, and of birds of the Shamayim 7 pairs, male and female, to keep offspring alive on the face of all the earth. For after 7 more days I am sending rain on the earth, 40 days and 40 nights, and shall wipe from the face of the earth all that stand that I created. And Noah did according to all that the Most High commanded him. Now Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters were on the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives went into the ark because of the waters of the flood, of the clean beasts, and of the beasts that are unclean, and of birds, and of all that creep on the earth. 2 by 2 they went into the ark to Noah, male and female, as Elohim had commanded Noah. And it came to be after 7 days that the waters of the flood were on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, on that day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of the Shamayim were opened. And the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On that same day Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them, went into the ark, they and every living creature after its kind, and every beast after its kind, and every creeping creature that creeps on the earth after its kind, and every bird after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went into the ark to Noah, 2 by 2, of all flesh in which is the breath of life. And those going in, male and female of all flesh, went in as Elohim had commanded him, and the Most High shut him in. And the flood was on the earth 40 days, and the waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. And the waters were mighty and greatly increased on the earth, and the ark moved about on the surface of the waters. And the waters were exceedingly mighty on the earth. And all the high mountains under all the Shamayim were covered. The waters became mighty, 15 amma upward, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved on the earth, birds and cattle and beasts, and every creeping creature that creeps on the earth, and all mankind, all in whose nostrils was the breath of the Spirit of life. All that was on the dry land died. So he wiped off all that stand, which were on the face of the ground, both man and beast, creeping creature and bird of the Shamayim, and they were wiped off from the earth. And only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark. And the waters were mighty on the earth 150 days. Chapter 8. And Elohim remembered Noah, and all the beasts and all the cattle that were with him in the ark. And Elohim made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided, and the fountains of the deep and the windows of the Shamayim were stopped. And the rain from the Shamayim was withheld, and the waters receded steadily from the earth. And at the end of the 150 days the waters diminished. And in the 7th month, the 17th day of the month, the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat, and the waters decreased steadily until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month, the tops of the mountains became visible. And it came to be, at the end of 40 days, that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. And he sent out a raven, which kept going out and turning back until the waters had dried up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove from him, to see if the waters had receded from the face of the ground. But the dove found no resting place for its feet, and returned into the ark to him, for the waters were on the face of all the earth. So he put out his hand and took it, and pulled it into the ark to himself. And he waited yet another 7 days. And again he sent the dove out from the ark. And the dove came to him in the evening, and see, a freshly plucked olive leaf was in its mouth. And Noah knew that the waters had receded from the earth. And he waited yet another 7 days, and sent out the dove, which did not return to him again. And it came to be in the 601st year, in the 1st month, the 1st day of the month, that the waters were dried up from the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and saw the surface of the ground was dry. And in the 2nd month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. And Elohim spoke to Noah, saying, Go out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living creature of all flesh that is with you, of birds, of cattle, and all creeping creatures that creep on the earth. And let them teem on the earth, and bear and increase on the earth. So Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping creature, and every bird, whatever creeps on the earth, according to their kinds, went out of the ark. And Noah built an altar to the Most High, and took of every clean beast and of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Most High smelled a soothing fragrance. And the Most High said in his heart, Never again shall I curse the ground because of man, although the inclination of man's heart is evil from his youth, and never again smite all life, as I have done, as long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and winter and summer, and day and night shall not cease. Chapter 9. And Elohim Barak Noah and his sons, and said to them, Bear fruit and increase, and fill the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you is on every beast of the earth, on every bird of the Shamayim, on all that creeps on the ground, and on all the fish of the sea into your hand they have been given. Every moving creature that lives is food for you. I have given you all, as the green plants. But do not eat flesh with its life, its blood. But only your blood for your lives I require. From the hand of every beast I require it, and from the hand of man. From the hand of every man's brother I require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood is shed. For in the image of Elohim has he made man. As for you, bear fruit and increase, bring forth teemingly in the earth and increase in it. And Elohim spoke to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And I, see, I establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, of the birds, of the cattle, and of every beast of the earth with you, of all that go out of the ark, every beast of the earth. And I shall establish my covenant with you, and never again is all flesh cut off by the waters of the flood, and never again is there a flood to destroy the earth. And Elohim said, This is the sign of the covenant which I make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you, for all generations to come. I shall put my rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be for the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. And it shall be, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the rainbow shall be seen in the cloud. And I shall remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And never again let the waters become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the rainbow shall be in the cloud, and I shall see it, to remember the everlasting covenant between Elohim and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. And Elohim said to Noah, This is the sign of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is on the earth. And the sons of Noah who went out of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth. And Ham was the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and all the earth was overspread from them. And Noah, a man of the soil, began and planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine and was drunk, and became uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brothers outside. So Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on both their shoulders, and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father. But their faces were turned away, and they did not see their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and he knew what his younger son had done to him. And he said, Cursed is Canaan, let him become a servant of servants to his brothers. And he said, Barak be the Most High, the Elohim of Shem, and let Canaan become his servant. Let Elohim enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan become his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years. So all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Chapter 10. And this is the genealogy of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Yawan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Yawan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. From these the coastland peoples of the nations were separated into their lands, every one according to his language, according to their clans, into their nations. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mitzrayim, and Put, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sapta, and Ramah, and Sabteka. And the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush brought forth Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Most High. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod the mighty hunter before the Most High. And the beginning of his reign was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. From that land he went to Ashur, and built Nineweh, and Rehoboth-ur, and Keilah, and Rezin between Nineweh and Keilah, the great city. And Mitzrayim brought forth Ludim, and Anamim, and Lahabim, and Naphtuhim, and Pathusim, and Casluhim, from whom came the Pelishtites and Caphtorim. And Canaan brought forth Sidon his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite, and the Ardite, and the Semirite, and the Hamathite. And afterward the clans of the Canaanites were spread abroad. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as you go toward Gerar, as far as Azah, as you go toward Sidom, and Amorah, and Admah, and Seboim, as far as Lasha. These were the sons of Ham, according to their clans, according to their languages, in their lands, in their nations. And also to Shem, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, brought forth. The sons of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Arpachshad, and Lud, and Aram. And the sons of Aram, Uz, and Hul, and Gether, and Mash. And Arpachshad brought forth Shelah, and Shelah brought forth Eber. And to Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan brought forth Almodad, and Sheleph, and Hatzermoth, and Ura, and Hadram, and Usul, and Diklah, and Obal, and Abimael, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Havilah, and Jobab. All these were sons of Joktan. And their dwelling place was from Mesha, as you go toward Sephar, a mountain of the east. These were the sons of Shem, according to their clans, according to their languages, in their lands, according to their nations. These were the clans of the sons of Noah, according to their generations, in their nations. And from these the nations were divided on the earth after the flood. Chapter 11. And it came to be, all the earth had one language and one speech. And it came to be, as they departed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said to each other, Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the Shamayim, and make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered over all the face of the earth. Then the Most High came down to see the city, and the tower which the sons of men had built. And the Most High said, Look, they are one people, and they all have one language, and this is what they begin to do. And now they are not going to be withheld from doing whatever they plan to do. Come, let us go there and confuse their language, so that they do not understand one another's speech. And the Most High scattered them from there, over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. That is why its name was called Babel, because there the Most High confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Most High scattered them over the face of all the earth. This is the genealogy of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and brought forth Arpachshad, 2 years after the flood. And after he brought forth Arpachshad, Shem lived 500 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. And Arpachshad lived 35 years, and brought forth Shelah. And after he brought forth Shelah, Arpachshad lived 403 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. And Shelah lived 30 years, and brought forth Eber. And after he brought forth Eber, Shelah lived 403 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years, and brought forth Peleg. And after he brought forth Peleg, Eber lived 430 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years, and brought forth Reu. And after he brought forth Reu, Peleg lived 209 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. And Reu lived 32 years, and brought forth Serug. And after he brought forth Serug, Reu lived 207 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years, and brought forth Nahor. And after he brought forth Nahor, Serug lived 200 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years, and brought forth Terah. And after he brought forth Terah, Nahor lived 119 years, and brought forth sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years, and brought forth Abram. Nahor, and Haran. And this is the genealogy of Terah. Terah brought forth Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran brought forth Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his birth, in Erkestim. And Abram and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. And Sarai was barren, she had no child. And Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife. And they went out with them from Erkestim to go to the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah came to be 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Chapter 12. And the Most High said to Abram, Go yourself out of your land, from your relatives, and from your father's house, to a land which I show you. And I shall make you a great nation, and Barak you, and make your name great, and you shall be a Barakah. And I shall Barak those who Barak you, and curse him who curses you. And in you all the clans of the earth shall be Baruch. So Abram left, as the Most High had commanded him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the beings whom they had acquired in Haran, and they departed for the land of Canaan. And they came to the land of Canaan. And Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, as far as the terebinth tree of Moreh. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. And the Most High appeared to Abram and said, To your seed I give this land. And he built there an altar to the Most High, who had appeared to him. And from there he moved to the mountain east of Beth-el, and he pitched his tent, with Beth-el on the west and Ai on the east. And he built there an altar to the Most High, and called on the name of the Most High. And Abram departed, continuing toward the Negeb. And a scarcity of food came to be in the land. And Abram went down to Mitzrayim to dwell there, for the scarcity of food was severe in the land. And it came to be, when he was close to entering Mitzrayim, that he said to Sarai his wife, See, I know that you are a lovely woman to look at. And it shall be, when the Mitzrites see you, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they shall kill me, but let you live. Please say you are my sister, so that it shall be well with me for your sake, and my life be spared because of you. And it came to be, when Abram came into Mitzrayim, that the Mitzrites saw the woman, that she was very lovely. And Pharaoh's officials saw her, and praised her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. And he treated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep, and cattle, and male donkeys, and male and female servants, and female donkeys, and camels. But the Most High plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues, because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this you have done to me? Why did you not inform me that she was your wife? Why did you say, She is my sister, and so I was going to take her for my wife? Look, here is your wife. Take her and go. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, with his wife and all that he had. Chapter 13. And Abram went up from Mitzrayim into the Negeb, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him. And Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journey from the Negeb as far as Beth-el, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Beth-el and Ai, to the place of the altar which he had made there at first. And there Abram called on the name of the Most High. Now Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. And at that time the Canaanites and the Perizzites dwelt in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, Please let there be no strife between you and me, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brothers. Is not all the land before you? Please separate from me. If you take the left, then I go to the right, or if you go to the right, then I go to the left. And Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of the Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere before the Most High destroyed Sodom and Amorah, like the garden of the Most High, like the land of Mitzrayim as you go towards Zoar. So Lot chose for himself all the plain of the Jordan, and Lot moved east. Thus they separated from each other, Abram dwelling in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelling in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent as far as Sodom. But the men of Sodom were evil and sinned before the Most High, exceedingly so. And after Lot had separated from him, the Most High said to Abram, Now lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which you see I shall give to you and your seed forever. And I shall make your seed as the dust of the earth, so that, if a man could count the dust of the earth, then your seed also could be counted. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you. So Abram moved his tent, and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built an altar there to the Most High. Chapter 14. And it came to be in the days of Amraphel sovereign of Shinar, Ahayah sovereign of El-Lasar, Chedorlaomer sovereign of Elam, and Tidal sovereign of Goyim, that they fought against Barak sovereign of Sodom, Bersha sovereign of Amorah, Shinab sovereign of Admah, Shemeber sovereign of Zeboim, and the sovereign of Bela, that is Zoar. All these joined together in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year Chedorlaomer and the sovereigns that were with him came and smote the Rephaim in Hashtroth Karnaim, and the Zuzim in Ham, and the Aimites in Shaweh-Kiriathim, and the Horites in their mountain of Seir, as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they turned back and came to Ein Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites who dwelt in Hatzitz and Tamar, and the sovereign of Sodom, and the sovereign of Amorah, and the sovereign of Admah, and the sovereign of Zeboim, and the sovereign of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and joined together in battle in the valley of Siddim, against Chedorlaomer sovereign of Elam, and Tidal sovereign of Goyim, and Amraphel sovereign of Shinar, and Ahayah sovereign of El-Lasar, 4 sovereigns against 5. And the valley of Siddim had many tar pits. And the sovereigns of Sodom and Amorah fled and fell there, and the remainder fled to the mountains. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Amorah, and all their food, and went away. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and left. And one who had escaped came and informed Abram the Elberite, for he dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and they had a covenant with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants who were born in his own house, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. And he and his servants divided against them by night, and smote them and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is on the left of Damascus. So he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people. And after his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the sovereigns who were with him, the sovereign of Sodom came out to meet him at the valley of Shaweh, that is, the sovereign's valley. And Melchizedek sovereign of Shalem brought out bread and wine. Now he was the Kohen of the Most High El. And he Barak him and said, Barak be Abram of the Most High El, possessor of the Shamayim and earth. And Barak be the Most High El, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him 1/10 of all. And the sovereign of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the people, and take the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the sovereign of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to the Most High El, the possessor of the Shamayim and earth. not to take a thread or a sandal strap, or whatever is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. Accept only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion. Chapter 15. After these events the word of the Most High came to Abram in a vision, saying, Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward is exceedingly great. And Abram said, Adonai the Most High, what would you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, See, you have given me no seed, and see, one born in my house is my heir. And see, the word of the Most High came to him, saying, This one is not your heir, but he who comes from your own body is your heir. And he brought him outside and said, Look now toward the Shamayim, and count the stars, if you are able to count them. And he said to him, So are your seed. And he believed in the Most High, and he reckoned it to him for righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Most High, who brought you out of Ur-Kasdim, to give you this land to inherit it. And he said, Adonai the Most High, whereby do I know that I possess it? And he said to him, Bring me a 3-year-old heifer, and a 3-year-old female goat, and a 3-year-old ram, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took all these to him, and cut them in the middle, and placed each half opposite the other. But he did not cut the birds. And the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, and Abram drove them away. And it came to be, when the sun was going down, and a deep sleep fell upon Abram, that see, a frightening great darkness fell upon him. And he said to Abram, Know for certain that your seed are to be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But the nation whom they serve I am going to judge, and afterward let them come out with great possessions. Now as for you, you are to go to your fathers in peace. You are to be buried at a good old age. Then, in the 4th generation, they shall return here. For the wickedness of the Amorites is not yet complete. And it came to be, when the sun went down, and it was dark, that see, a smoking oven and a burning torch passing between those pieces. On the same day, the Most High made a covenant with Abram, saying, I have given this land to your seed, from the river of Mitzrayim to the great river, the river Parath, with the Canaanite, and the Kenizzite, and the Cadmonite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Rephaim, and the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Girgashite, and the Jebusite. Chapter 16. And Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no child, and she had a Mitzrite female servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, See, the Most High has kept me from bearing children. Please, go in to my female servant. It might be that I am built up by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar her female servant, the Mitzrite, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. And he went in to Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said to Abram, My wrong be upon you. I gave my female servant into your bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Let the Most High judge between you and me. And Abram said to Sarai, See, your female servant is in your hand. Do to her what is good in your eyes. And Sarai treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence. And the messenger of the Most High found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's female servant, where have you come from, and where are you going? And she said, I am fleeing from the presence of Sarai, my mistress. And the messenger of the Most High said to her, Return to your mistress, and humble yourself under her hand. And the messenger of the Most High said to her, I am going to increase your seed greatly, too numerous to be counted. And the messenger of the Most High said to her, See, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Most High has heard your affliction. And he is to be a wild man, his hand against everyone and everyone's hand against him, and dwell over against all his brothers. And she called the name of the Most High who spoke to her. You are the El who sees, for she said, Even here have I seen after him who sees me. That is why the well was called Ber-lahai-roi, see, it is between Kadesh and Bird. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. Chapter 17. And it came to be when Abram was 99 years old, that the Most High appeared to Abram and said to him, I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be perfect, and I give my covenant between me and you, and shall greatly increase you. And Abram fell on his face, and Elohim spoke with him, saying, As for me, look, my covenant is with you, and you shall become a father of many nations. And no longer is your name called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, because I shall make you a father of many nations. And I shall make you bear fruit exceedingly, and make nations of you, and sovereigns shall come from you. And I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be Elohim to you and your seed after you. And I shall give to you and your seed after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession. And I shall be their Elohim. And Elohim said to Abraham, As for you, guard my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you guard between me and you, and your seed after you. Every male child among you is to be circumcised. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall become a sign of the covenant between me and you. And a son of 8 days is circumcised by you, every male child in your generations. He who is born in your house, or bought with silver from any foreigner who is not of your seed. He who is born in your house, and he who is bought with your silver, has to be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh, for an everlasting covenant. And an uncircumcised male child, who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, his life shall be cut off from his people, he has broken my covenant. And Elohim said to Abraham, As for Sarah your wife, do not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. And I shall Barak her, and also give you a son by her. And I shall Barak her, and she shall become nations. Sovereigns of peoples are to be from her. And Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Alas, a child born to a man who is 100 years old, or as Sarah, who is 90 years old, to bear a child. And Abraham said to Elohim, Oh, let Ishmael lie before you. And Elohim said, No, Sarah your wife is truly bearing a son to you, and you shall call his name Yitzhak. And I shall establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. See, I shall Barak him, and shall make him bear fruit, and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. But my covenant I establish with Yitzhak, whom Sarah is to bear to you at this appointed time next year. And when he had ended speaking with him, Elohim went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all those born in his house, and all those bought with his silver, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that same day, as Elohim told him. And Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised that same day. And all the men of his house, born in the house or bought with silver from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. Chapter 18. And the Most High appeared to him by the terebinth trees of Mamre, while he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. So he lifted his eyes and looked, and saw 3 men standing opposite him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and bowed himself to the ground, and said, "The Most High, if I have now found favor in your eyes, please do not pass your servant by. Please let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And let me bring a piece of bread and refresh your hearts, and then go on, for this is why you have come to your servant." And they said, "Do as you have said." So Abraham ran into the tent to Sarah and said, "Hurry, make ready 3 seahs of fine flour, knead it, and make cakes." And Abraham ran to the herd, took a tender and good calf, gave it to a young man, and he hurried to prepare it. And he took curds and milk and the calf which he had prepared, and put it before them, and he stood by them under the tree as they ate. And they said to him, "Where is Sarah your wife?" And he said, "See, in the tent." And he said, "I shall certainly return to you according to the time of life. And see, Sarah your wife is to have a son." And Sarah was listening in the tent door which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah was past the way of women. And Sarah laughed within herself, saying, "After I have grown old, shall I have pleasure, my master being old too?" And the Most High said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh, saying, 'Shall I truly have a child, since I am old?' Is any matter too hard for the Most High? At the appointed time I am going to return to you, according to the time of life, and Sarah is to have a son." But Sarah denied it, saying, "I did not laugh," for she was afraid. And he said, "No, but you did laugh." And the men rose up from there and looked toward Sodom. And Abraham went with them to send them away. And the Most High said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Since Abraham is certainly going to become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be Barak in him, for I have known him, so that he commands his children and his household after him, to guard the way of the Most High, to do righteousness and right ruling, so that the Most High brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him." And the Most High said, "Because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very heavy, I am going down now to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me, and if not, I know." So the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom. But Abraham still stood before the Most High. And Abraham drew near and said, "Would you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? Far be it from you to act in this way, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Does the judge of all the earth not do right?" And the Most High said, "If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I shall spare all the place for their sakes." And Abraham answered and said, "Look, please, I who am but dust and ashes have taken it upon myself to speak to the Most High. Suppose there are 5 less than the 50 righteous. Would you destroy all of the city for lack of 5? And he said, "If I find there 45, I do not destroy it." And he spoke to him yet again and said, "Suppose there are found 40? And he said, "I would not do it for the sake of 40. And he said, "Let not the Most High be displeased, and let me speak. Suppose there are found 30? And he said, "I would not do it if I find 30 there." And he said, "Look, please, I have taken it upon myself to speak to the Most High. Suppose there are found 20? And he said, "I would not destroy it for the sake of 20. And he said, "Let not the Most High be displeased, and let me speak only this time. Suppose there are found 10? And he said, "I would not destroy it for the sake of 10. Then the Most High went away as soon as he had ended speaking to Abraham. And Abraham returned to his place. Chapter 19. And the two messengers came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. And when Lot saw them, he rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Look, please, my masters, please turn into your servant's house and spend the night, and wash your feet, and rise early and go your way. And they said, No, but let us spend the night in the open square. But he urged them strongly, and they turned into him and came into his house. And he made them a feast, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every part, surrounded the house. And they called to Lot and said to him, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, and let us know them. So Lot went out to them through the doorway, and shut the door behind him, and said, Please, my brothers, do not do evil. Look, please, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please, let me bring them out to you, and do to them as is good in your eyes. Only do no deed to these men, because they have come under the shadow of my roof. But they said, Stand back. And they said, This one came in to sojourn, and should he always judge? Now we are going to treat you worse than them. So they pressed hard against the man Lot, and came near to break down the door. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great, and they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said to Lot, Have you anyone else here? A son-in-law, and your sons, and your daughters, and whomever you have in the city, bring them out of this place. For we are going to destroy this place, because the cry against them has grown great before the face of the Most High, and the Most High has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who had married his daughters, and said, Get up, get out of this place, for the Most High is going to destroy this city. But to his sons-in-law he seemed to be as one joking. And when morning dawned, the messengers urged Lot to hurry, saying, Get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city. And while he lingered, the men took hold of his hand, and his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters, the Most High having compassion on him. And they brought him out, and put him outside the city. And it came to be, when they had brought them outside, that he said, Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be consumed. And Lot said to them, Oh no, Most High, look, please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have increased your kindness, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I am unable to escape to the mountains, lest calamity overtake me and I die. Look, please, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is small. Please let me escape, there is it not a small matter, and let my life be saved. And he said to him, Look, I have favored you concerning this matter also, without overthrowing this city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I am not able to do any deed until you arrive there. So the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered Zoar, and the Most High rained sulfur and fire on Sodom and Amorah from the Most High out of the Shamayim. So he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a post of salt. And Abraham arose early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Most High. And he looked toward Sodom and Amorah, and toward all the land of the plain. And he looked and saw the smoke of the land, which went up like the smoke of a furnace. Thus it came to be, when Elohim destroyed the cities of the plain, that Elohim remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. and Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountains. And his 2 daughters were with him, for he was afraid to dwell in Zoar. And he and his 2 daughters dwelt in a cave. And the firstborn said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is no man on the earth to come in to us, as is the way of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine and lie with him, so that we preserve the seed of our father. So they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she arose. And it came to be on the next day that the firstborn said to the younger, See, I lay with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine tonight as well. And you go in and lie with him, so that we keep the seed of our father. So they made their father drink wine that night as well. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. And the firstborn bore a son, and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son, and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the children of Ammon to this day. Chapter 20. And Abraham departed from there to the land of the Negeb, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and stayed in Gerar. And Abraham said concerning Sarah his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech sovereign of Gerar sent, and took Sarah. But Elohim came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, See, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. However, Abimelech had not come near her. And he said, The Most High, would you slay a righteous nation also? Did he not say to me, She is my sister? And she, even she herself said, He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and in the innocence of my hands I have done this. And Elohim said to him in a dream, Though I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart, and so I kept you from sinning against me. For this reason I did not let you touch her. And now return the man's wife, for he is in Nabai, and let him pray for you, and you live. But if you do not return her, know that you shall certainly die, you and all that are yours. So Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and spoke all these words in their hearing. And the men were greatly frightened. And Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, What have you done to us? In what have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and on my reign a great sin? You have done matters to me that should not be done. And Abimelech said to Abraham, What did you have in view, that you have done this matter? And Abraham said, Only because I said, The reverence of Elohim is not in this place, and they shall kill me for the sake of my wife. And yet, she is truly my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to be, when Elohim caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, This is your kindness that you should do for me. In every place, wherever we go, say of me, He is my brother. Then Abimelech took sheep and cattle and male and female servants, and gave them to Abraham. And he returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, See, my land is before you. Dwell wherever it is good in your eyes. And to Sarah he said, See, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. See, it is to you a covering of eyes before all who are with you, and before all others, and you are cleared before everyone. And Abraham prayed to Elohim, and Elohim healed Abimelech, and his wife, and his female servants, so they bore children. For the Most High had closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech, because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Chapter 21. And the Most High visited Sarah as he had said, and the Most High did for Sarah as he had spoken. So Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the appointed time of which Elohim had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son, who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Yitzhak. And Abraham circumcised his son Yitzchak when he was 8 days old, as Elohim had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Yitzchak was born to him. And Sarah said, Elohim has made me laugh, and everyone who hears of it laughs with me. And she said, Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast on the day that Yitzchak was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Mitzrite, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking. So she said to Abraham, Drive out this female servant and her son, for the son of this female servant shall not inherit with my son, with Yitzchak. And the matter was very evil in the eyes of Abraham because of his son. But Elohim said to Abraham, Let it not be evil in your eyes because of the boy, and because of your female servant. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice. For in Yitzchak your seed is called. And of the son of the female servant I also make a nation, because he is your seed. And Abraham rose early in the morning, and took bread and a skin of water, which he gave to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, also the boy, and sent her away. And she left and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water in the skin was used up, and she placed the boy under one of the shrubs. And she went and sat down about a bowshot away, for she said, Let me not see the death of the boy. And she sat opposite him, and lifted her voice and wept. And Elohim heard the voice of the boy, and the messenger of Elohim called to Hagar from the Shamayim, and said to her, What is the matter with you, Hagar? Do not fear, for Elohim has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Arise, lift up the boy, and hold him with your hand, for I make a great nation of him. And Elohim opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water, and gave the boy a drink. And Elohim was with the boy, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran. And his mother took a wife for him from the land of Mitzrayim. And it came to be at that time that Abimelech and Tekoa, the commander of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, Elohim is with you in all that you do. And now swear to me by Elohim, not to be untrue to me, to my offspring, or to my descendants. Do to me according to the kindness that I have done to you, and to the land in which you have dwelt. And Abraham said, I swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water which Abimelech's servants had seized. And Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this deed. Neither did you inform me, nor did I hear until today. So Abraham took sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made a covenant. And Abraham put 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech asked Abraham, What are these 7 ewe lambs which you have put by themselves? And he said, Take these 7 ewe lambs from my hand, to be my witness that I have dug this well. So he called that place Beersheba, because the two of them swore an oath there. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. And Abimelech rose with Tekoa, the commander of his army, and they returned to the land of the Pelethites. And he planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there called on the name of the Most High, the everlasting El. And Abraham sojourned in the land of the Pelethites many days. Chapter 22. And it came to be after these events that Elohim tried Abraham, and said to him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Take your son, now, your only son Yitzchak, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I command you. And Abraham rose early in the morning, and saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Yitzchak his son, and he split the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place which Elohim had commanded him. And on the 3rd day Abraham lifted his eyes, and saw the place from a distance. So Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey, while the boy and I go over there and worship, and come back to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid it on Yitzchak his son. And he took the fire in his hand, and a knife, and the two of them went together. And Yitzchak spoke to Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, See, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, Elohim provides for himself the lamb for a burnt offering. And the two of them went together. And they came to the place which Elohim had commanded him. And Abraham built an altar there, and placed the wood in order. And he bound Yitzchak his son, and laid him on the altar, upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. But the messenger of the Most High called to him from the Shamayim, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on the boy, nor touch him. For now I know that you revere Elohim, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted his eyes, and looked, and saw behind him a ram caught in a bush by its horns. And Abraham went, and took the ram, and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place, The Most High Yair, as it is said to this day, On the mountain the Most High provides. And the messenger of the Most High called to Abraham a second time from the Shamayim, and said, By myself I have sworn, declares the Most High, because you have done this, and have not withheld your son, your only son, that I shall certainly Barak you, and I shall certainly increase your seed as the stars of the Shamayim, and as the sand which is on the seashore, and let your seed possess the gate of their enemies. And in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be Barak, because you have obeyed my voice. Then Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to be after these events that it was reported to Abraham, saying, See, Milcah too has borne children to your brother Nahor, Uz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel father of Aram, and Kezd, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Yidlaph, and Bethuel. And Bethuel brought forth Ribkah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. And his concubine, whose name was Reumah, also bore Tebah, and Gaham, and Tahash, and Maacah. Chapter 23. And Sarah lived 127 years, the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah, and to weep for her. Then Abraham rose up from beside his dead, and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a foreigner and a sojourner among you. Give me property for a burial site among you, so that I bury my dead from my presence. And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hereth, my master, you are a prince of Elohim among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us withholds from you his burial site, from burying your dead. So Abraham rose and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. And he spoke with them, saying, If it is your desire that I bury my dead from my presence, hear me, and approach Ephron son of Zohar for me, and let me have the cave of Machpelah which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me for the complete amount of silver, as property for a burial site among you. And Ephron dwelt among the sons of Heth. And Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Heth, all who entered at the gate of his city, saying, No, my master, listen to me. I shall give you the field and the cave that is in it. I shall give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I shall give it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land. And he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, You would hear me. I shall give the amount of silver for the field. Take it from me, and let me bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My master, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? So bury your dead." And Abraham listened to Ephron. And Abraham weighed out the silver for Ephron, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency of the merchants. Thus the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within all the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of his city. And after this Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Thus the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth's property for a burial site. Chapter 24. And Abraham was old, advanced in years, and the Most High had Barak Abraham in every way. And Abraham said to the oldest servant of his house, who ruled over all that he had, "Please, put your hand under my thigh, so that I make you swear by the Most High, the Elohim of the Shamayim and the Elohim of the earth, that you do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell, but go to my land and to my relatives, and take a wife for my son Yitzchak." And the servant said to him, "What if the woman refuses to follow me to this land? Do I then take your son back to the land from which you came?" And Abraham said to him, "Beware lest you take my son back there. The Most High, Elohim of the Shamayim, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my relatives, and who spoke to me and swore to me, saying, 'To your seed I give this land,' he sends his messenger before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. And if the woman refuses to follow you, then you shall be released from this oath. Only do not take my son back there." Then the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. And the servant took 10 of his master's camels and left, for all his master's goods were in his hand. And he arose and went to Aram Naharaim, to the city of Nahor. And he made his camels kneel down outside the city, by a fountain of water at evening time, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, "The Most High, Elohim of my master Abraham, please meet before me this day, and show kindness to my master Abraham. See, I am standing here by the fountain of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now let it be that the young woman to whom I say, 'Please let down your jar to let me drink,' and she says, 'Drink, and let me water your camels too,' let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Yitzchak. And let me know by this that you have shown kindness to my master." And it came to be, before he had ended speaking, that see, Ribkah, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her jar on her shoulder. And the young woman was very good-looking, a maiden, no man having known her. And she went down to the fountain, filled her jar, and came up. And the servant ran to meet her and said, "Please let me drink a little water from your jar." And she said, "Drink, my master." And she hurried and let her jar down to her hand, and gave him a drink. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "Let me draw water for your camels too, until they have finished drinking." And she hurried and emptied her jar into the trough, ran back to the fountain to draw water, and drew for all his camels. And watching her, the man remained silent in order to know whether the Most High had prospered his way or not. And it came to be, when the camels had finished drinking, that the man took a golden nose ring weighing 1/2 shekel, and 2 bracelets for her wrists weighing 10 shekels of gold, and said, "Whose daughter are you? Please inform me, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night?" And she said to him, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, Milcah's son, whom she bore to Nahor." And she said to him, "We have both straw and fodder enough, and room to spend the night." And the man bowed down his head and worshipped the Most High. And he said, Barak be the Most High Elohim of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his kindness and his truth toward my master. As for me, being on the way, the Most High led me to the house of my master's brothers. Then the young woman ran and informed those of her mother's house these matters. And Ribkah had a brother whose name was Laban. And Laban ran out to the man, to the fountain. And it came to be, when he saw the nose ring, and the bracelets on his sister's wrists, and when he heard the words of his sister Ribkah, saying, Thus the man spoke to me, that he went to the man, and saw him standing by the camels at the fountain. And he said, Come in, O Barak of the Most High. Why do you stand outside? I myself have prepared the house, and a place for the camels. So the man came into the house, while he unloaded the camels, and provided straw and fodder for the camels, and water to wash his feet, and the feet of the men who were with him, and put food before him to eat. But he said, Let me not eat until I have spoken my word. And he said, Speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant. And the Most High has Barak my master exceedingly, and he has become great. And he has given him flocks and herds, and silver and gold, and male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. And Sarah my master's wife bore a son to my master after she was old, and he has given to him all that he has. And my master made me swear, saying, Do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell, but go to my father's house and to my relatives, and take a wife for my son. And I said to my master, What if the woman does not follow me? But he said to me, The Most High, before whom I walk, sends his messenger with you, and shall prosper your way. And you shall take a wife for my son from my relatives, and from my father's house. Then, when you go to my relatives, you are to be released from this oath. And if they do not give her to you, then you are released from my oath. And this day I came to the fountain and said, The Most High, Elohim of my master Abraham, please, if you are prospering the way in which I am going. See, I am standing by the fountain of water, and when the maiden comes out to draw water, and I say to her, Please give me a little water from your jar to drink. And she says to me, Drink, and let me draw for your camels too. Let her be the woman whom the Most High has appointed for my master's son. I had not yet ended speaking in my heart. Then see, Ribkah was coming out with her jar on her shoulder, and she went down to the fountain and drew water. And I said to her, Please let me drink. And she hurried and let her jar down from her shoulder, and said, Drink, and let me water your camels too. So I drank, and she watered the camels too. And I asked her, and said, Whose daughter are you? And she said, The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him. Then I put the nose ring on her nose, and the bracelets on her wrists. And I bowed my head and worshipped the Most High, and Barak the Most High, Elohim of my master Abraham, who had led me in the true way to take the daughter of my master's brother for his son. And now, if you are going to show kindness and truth to my master, let me know, and if not, let me know, so that I turn to the right or to the left. And Laban answered Bethuel and said, The matter comes from the Most High. We are not able to speak to you either evil or good. See, Ribkah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be your master's son's wife, as the Most High has spoken. And it came to be, when Abraham's servant heard their words, that he bowed himself towards the earth before the Most High. And the servant brought out ornaments of silver, and ornaments of gold, and garments, and gave them to Ribkah. He also gave costly gifts to her brother and to her mother. And he and the men who were with him ate and drank and spent the night. When they arose in the morning, he said, Let me go to my master. But her brother and her mother said, Let the young woman stay with us a few days, at least 10, then you go. And he said to them, Do not delay me, since the Most High has prospered my way. "Let me go, so that I go to my master." And they said, "Let us call the young woman and ask her." So they called Ribkah and said to her, "Are you going with this man?" And she said, "I shall go." So they let go Ribkah their sister and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men. And they Barak Ribkah and said to her, "Let our sister become the mother of thousands of 10,000s, and let your seed possess the gates of those who hate them." And Ribkah and her young women arose, and they rode on the camels and followed the man. So the servant took Ribkah and left. And Yitzchak came from the way of Beer-lahai-roi, for he dwelt in the Negeb. And Yitzchak went out to meditate in the field in the evening. And he lifted his eyes and looked and saw the camels coming. And Ribkah lifted her eyes. And when she saw Yitzchak, she dismounted from her camel. And she said to the servant, "Who is this man walking in the field to meet us?" And the servant said, "It is my master." So she took a veil and covered herself. And the servant told Yitzchak all the matters he had done. And Yitzchak brought her into his mother Sarah's tent. And he took Ribkah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. Thus Yitzchak was comforted after his mother's death. Chapter 25. And Abraham took another wife, whose name was Keturah, and she bore him Zimran, and Yokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Yishbak, and Shua. And Yokshan brought forth Sheba and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were Asran, and Ledosham, and Laman. And the sons of Midian were Ephah, and Epher, and Hanak, and Abidah, and Eldaah. All these were the children of Keturah. Now Abraham gave all that he had to Yitzchak. But to the sons of the concubines whom Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts while he was still living, and sent them away from his son Yitzchak, eastward, to the land of the east. And these are all the years of Abraham's life which he lived, 175 years. And Abraham breathed his last, and died in a good old age, aged and satisfied, and was gathered to his people. And his sons Yitzchak and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the field of Ephron son of Zohar the Hittite, the field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth. There Abraham was buried with Sarah his wife. And it came to be, after the death of Abraham, that Elohim Barak his son Yitzchak. And Yitzchak dwelt at Beer-lahai-roi. And this is the genealogy of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Mitzrayite, Sarah's female servant, bore to Abraham. And these were the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names, according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebaioth, then Kedar, and Adbel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, Hadad, and Tema, Yeder, Naphish, and Kedemah. These were the sons of Ishmael, and these were their names, by their towns and their settlements, 12 chiefs according to their tribes. And these were the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people. And they dwelt from Havilah as far as Shur, which is east of Mitzrayim, as you go toward Ashur. He settled before all his brothers. And this is the genealogy of Yitzchak, Abraham's son. Abraham brought forth Yitzchak. And Yitzchak was 40 years old when he took Ribkah as wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Paddan Aram, the sister of Laban the Aramean. And Yitzchak prayed to the Most High for his wife, because she was barren. And the Most High answered his prayer, and Ribkah his wife conceived. And within her the children struggled together, and she said, "If all is right, why am I this way?" So she went to ask the Most High. And the Most High said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples shall be separated from your body, and 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older serve the younger. And when the days were filled for her to give birth, and see, twins were in her womb, and the first came out reddish all over, like a hairy garment. So they called his name Esau. And afterward his brother came out, with his hand holding on to Esau's heel. So his name was called Jacob. And Yitzchak was 60 years old when she bore them, and the boys grew up. And Esau became a man knowing how to hunt, a man of the field, while Jacob was a complete man, dwelling in tents. And Yitzchak loved Esau, because he ate of his wild game. But Ribkah loved Jacob. And Jacob cooked a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. And Esau said to Jacob, Please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary. That is why his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, Sell me your birthright today. And Esau said, Look, I am going to die, so why should I have birthright? Then Jacob said, Swear to me today. And he swore to him, and sold his birthright to Jacob. Jacob then gave Esau bread and stew of lentils, and he ate and drank, and rose up and left. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Chapter 26. And there was a scarcity of food in the land, besides the first scarcity of food, which was in the days of Abraham. And Yitzchak went to Abimelech, sovereign of the Pelishtites, in Gerar. And the Most High appeared to him and said, Do not go down to Mitzrayim. Live in the land which I command you. Sojourn in this land, and I shall be with you and Barak you. For I give all these lands to you and your seed. And I shall establish the oath which I swore to Abraham your father. And I shall increase your seed like the stars of the Shamayim. And I shall give all these lands to your seed. And in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be Barak. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and guarded my charge, my commands, my laws, and my Torah. And Yitzchak dwelt in Gerar. And when the men of the place asked about his wife, he said, She is my sister. For he was afraid to say, She is my wife, lest the men of the place should kill me for Ribkah, because she is good-looking. And it came to be, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, sovereign of the Pelishtites, looked through a window, and he watched and saw Yitzchak playing with Ribkah his wife. So Abimelech called Yitzchak and said, See, truly she is your wife. So how could you say, She is my sister? And Yitzchak said to him, Because I said, Lest I die on account of her. And Abimelech said, What is this you have done to us? One of the people had almost lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt on us. And Abimelech commanded all his people, saying, He who touches this man or his wife shall certainly be put to death. And Yitzchak sowed in that land, and reaped in the same year 100-fold. And the Most High barak him. And the man grew great and went forward until he became very great. And he came to have possessions of flocks and possessions of herds, and a great body of servants. And the Pelishtites envied him. And the Pelishtites had stopped up all the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father, and filled them with dirt. And Abimelech said to Yitzchak, Go away from us, for you are much mightier than we. So Yitzchak went from there, and pitched his tent in the Wadi Gerar, and dwelt there. And Yitzchak dug again the wells of water which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Pelishtites had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. And he called them by the names which his father had called them. But when Yitzchak's servants dug in the wadi, and found a well of running water there, the herdsmen of Gerar strove with Yitzchak's herdsmen, saying, The water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And they dug another well, and they strove over that one too, and he called its name Sitmah. And he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not strive over it. And he called its name Rehoboth, and said, For now the Most High has made room for us, and we shall bear fruit in the land. And from there he went up to Beersheba. And the Most High appeared to him the same night, and said, I am the Elohim of your father Abraham. Do not fear, for I am with you, and shall barak you and increase your seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he built an altar there, and called on the name of the Most High. And he pitched his tent there, and the servants of Yitzchak dug a well there. And Abimelech came to him from Gerar, with Ahazaph, one of his friends, and Pikol the commander of his army. And Yitzchak said to them, Why have you come to me, seeing you have hated me, and have sent me away from you? But they said, We have clearly seen that the Most High is with you. And we said, Please, let there be an oath between us, between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, that you do no evil to us, as we have not touched you, and as we have done only good toward you, and have sent you away in peace. You are now Barak by the Most High. And he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. And they rose early in the morning and swore an oath with one another. And Yitzchak let them go, and they departed from him in peace. And on the same day it came to be that the servants of Yitzchak came and informed him about the well which they had dug, and said to him, We have found water. So he called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. And when Esau was 40 years old, he took as wives Yahudah the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basemath the daughter of Elon the Hittite. And they were a bitterness of spirit to Yitzchak and Ribkah. Chapter 27. And it came to be, when Yitzchak was old and his eyes were too dim to see, that he called Esau his elder son, and said to him, My son. And he answered him, Here I am. And he said, See now, I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now then, please take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt wild game for me, and make me a tasty dish, such as I love, and bring it to me to eat, in order that my being may barak you before I die. And Ribkah heard when Yitzchak spoke to Esau his son. And Esau went to the field to hunt wild game, and to bring it. And Ribkah spoke to Jacob her son, saying, See, I heard your father speak to Esau your brother, saying, Bring me wild game, and make me a tasty dish to eat, and barak you in the presence of the Most High before my death. And now, my son, listen to my voice according to what I command you. Please go to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, and I make a tasty dish from them for your father, such as he loves. And you shall take it to your father, and he shall eat it, so that he might barak you before his death. And Jacob said to Ribkah his mother, See, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth-skinned man. What if my father touches me? Then I shall be like a deceiver in his eyes, and shall bring a curse on myself and not a barakah. But his mother said to him, Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice, and go, get them for me. And he went and fetched them, and brought them to his mother. And his mother made a tasty dish, such as his father loved. And Ribkah took the best garments of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the young goats on his hands, and on the smooth part of his neck. Then she gave the tasty dish and the bread, which she had prepared, into the hand of her son Jacob. And he went to his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am. Who are you, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau your firstborn. I have done as you said to me. Please rise, sit and eat of my wild game, so that your being might barak me. But Yitzchak said to his son, How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Most High your Elohim brought it to me. Then Yitzchak said to Jacob, Please come near, so that I feel you, my son, whether you truly are my son Esau or not. And Jacob went near to Yitzchak his father, and he felt him and said, The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. And he barak him. And he said, Are you truly my son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Bring it near to me, and let me eat of my son's wild game, so that my being might barak you. So he brought it near to him, and he ate. And he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Yitzchak said to him, Please come near and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him. And he smelled the smell of his garments, and Barak him, and said, See, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field which the Most High has Barak. And Elohim give you of the dew of the Shamayim, of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brothers, and let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be those cursing you, and Barak be those baraka you. And it came to be, as soon as Yitzchak had finished baraka Yaakov, and Yaakov had hardly left the presence of Yitzchak his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he too had made a tasty dish, and brought it to his father, and said to his father, Let my father rise and eat of his son's wild game, so that your being might Barak me. And his father Yitzchak said to him, Who are you? And he said, I am your son, your firstborn, Esau. Then Yitzchak shuddered with exceedingly great trembling, and said, Who was it then who hunted wild game, and brought it to me? And I ate all of it before you came, and I have Barak him. Even so, he is Barak. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, Barak me too, O my father. And he said, Your brother came with deceit, and took your baraka. And Esau said, Was his name then called Yaakov? For he has caught me by the heel these 2 times. He took my birthright, and see, now he has taken my baraka. And he said, Have you not reserved a baraka for me? Then Yitzchak answered and said to Esau, See, I have made him your master, and all his brothers I have given to him as servants, and I have sustained him with grain and wine. And what, then, shall I do for you, my son? And Esau said to his father, Have you only one baraka, my father? Barak me too, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Yitzchak his father answered and said to him, See, your dwelling is of the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of the Shamayim from above. And by your sword you are to live, and serve your brother. And it shall be, when you grow restless, that you shall break his yoke from your neck. And Esau hated Yaakov, because of the baraka with which his father Barak him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father draw near. Then I am going to kill my brother Yaakov. And the words of Esau, her older son, were reported to Rivkah. And she sent and called Yaakov her younger son, and said to him, See, your brother Esau comforts himself concerning you, to kill you. And now, my son, listen to my voice, and rise, flee to my brother Laban in Haran, and stay with him a few days, until your brother's wrath turns away, until your brother's displeasure turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. And I shall send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereaved of you both in one day? And Rivkah said to Yitzchak, I am disgusted with my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Yaakov takes a wife from the daughters of Heth, like these who are the daughters of the land, what is my life to me? Chapter 28. And Yitzchak called Yaakov and Barak him, and commanded him, and said to him, Do not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Paddan Aram, to the house of Bethuel your mother's father, and take a wife for yourself from there, from the daughters of Laban your mother's brother. And El Shaddai Barak you, and make you bear fruit and increase you, and you shall become an assembly of peoples, and give you the baraka of Abraham, to you and your seed with you, so that you inherit the land of your sojournings, which Elohim gave to Abraham. So Yitzchak sent Yaakov away, and he went to Paddan Aram, to Laban son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rivkah, the mother of Yaakov and Esau. And Esau saw that Yitzchak had Barak Yaakov, and sent him away to Paddan Aram to take himself a wife from there, and that as he Barak him, he gave him a command, saying, Do not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. And that Yaakov had obeyed his father and his mother, and had gone to Paddan Aram. So Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan did not please his father Yitzhak. And Esau went to Yishmael, and took Mahalath the daughter of Yishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife, besides the wives he had. And Jacob went out from Beersheba, and went toward Haran. And he came upon a place, and stopped over for the night, for the sun was down. And he took one of the stones of that place, and put it at his head. And he lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and saw a ladder standing on the earth, and its top reached to the Shamayim, and saw messengers of Elohim going up and coming down on it. And see, the Most High stood above it, and said, I am the Most High Elohim of Abraham your father, and the Elohim of Yitzhak. The land on which you are lying, I give it to you and your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and ye shall break forth to the west and to the east, to the north and the south. And all the clans of the earth shall be Barak in you and in your seed. And see, I am with you, and shall guard you wherever you go, and shall bring you back to this land. For I am not going to leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. And Jacob awoke from his sleep, and said, Truly, the Most High is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid, and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of the Shamayim. And Jacob rose early in the morning, and took the stone that he had put at his head, put it up as a standing column, and poured oil on top of it. And he called the name of that place Beth-El. However, the name of that city had been Luz previously. And Jacob made a vow, saying, Seeing Elohim is with me, and has kept me in this way that I am going, and has given me bread to eat and a garment to put on, when I have returned to my father's house in peace, and the Most High shall be my Elohim, then this stone which I have placed as a standing column shall be Elohim's house. And of all that you give me, I shall certainly give a tenth to you. Chapter 29. And Jacob moved on, and came to the land of the people of the east. And he looked and saw a well in the field, and saw 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a large stone was on the well's mouth. And all the flocks would be gathered there. Then they would roll the stone from the well's mouth, and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the well's mouth. So Jacob said to them, My brothers, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. And he said to them, Do you know Laban son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. So he said to them, Is he well? And they said, Well. And see, his daughter Rachel is coming with the sheep. And he said, See, it is still high day, not the time for the livestock to be gathered together. Water the sheep, and go and feed them. But they said, We are not allowed until all the flocks are gathered together, and they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we shall water the sheep. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to be, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice and wept. And when Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's relative, and that he was Rivka's son, she ran and told her father. And it came to be, when Laban heard the report about Jacob his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him and kissed him, and brought him to his house. Then he told Laban all these matters. And Laban said to him, You are indeed my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for naught? Let me know, what should your wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was lovely of form and appearance. And Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, Let me serve you 7 years for Rahel your younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Stay with me. So Yaakov served 7 years for Rahel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. Then Yaakov said to Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are completed, and let me go into her. And Laban gathered all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to be in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to Yaakov, and he went into her. And Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a female servant. And in the morning it came to be that, see, it was Leah. So he said to Laban, What is this you have done to me? Was it not for Rahel that I served you? Why then have you deceived me? And Laban said, It is not done this way in our place, to give the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, then we give you this one too, for the service which you shall serve with me still another 7 years. And Yaakov did so and completed her week. Then he gave him his daughter Rahel too, as wife. And Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rahel as a female servant. And he also went into Rahel, and he also loved Rahel more than Leah. And he served with Laban still another 7 years. And the Most High saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rahel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Laban, for she said, For the Most High has looked on my affliction, because now my husband is going to love me. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Because the Most High has heard that I am unloved, he gave me this son too. And she called his name Shimon. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Now this time my husband is joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. So his name was called Lui. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Now I praise the Most High. So she called his name Yehudah, and she ceased bearing. Chapter 30. And when Rahel saw that she bore Yaakov no children, Rahel envied her sister, and said to Yaakov, Give me children, or else I am going to die. And Yaakov's displeasure burned against Rahel, and he said, Am I in the place of Elohim, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? And she said, See, my female servant Bilhah, go into her, and let her bear over my knees, and let me be built up from her as well. So she gave him Bilhah her female servant as wife, and Yaakov went into her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Yaakov a son. And Rahel said, Elohim has rightly ruled my case, and has also heard my voice, and given me a son. So she called his name Dan. And Rahel's female servant Bilhah conceived again, and bore Yaakov a second son. And Rahel said, With great wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and I have overcome. So she called his name Naphtali. And Leah saw that she had ceased bearing, and she took Zilpah her female servant, and gave her to Yaakov as wife. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Yaakov a son. And Leah said, What luck! So she called his name Gad. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Yaakov a second son. And Leah said, I am Barak, for the daughters shall call me Barak. So she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found love apples in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. And Rahel said to Leah, Please give me some of your son's love apples. But she said to her, Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's love apples too? And Rahel said, Therefore let him lie with you tonight for your son's love apples. And when Yaakov came out of the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, Do come in to me, for indeed I have hired you with my son's love apples. And he lay with her that night. And Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Yaakov a 5th son. And Leah said, Elohim has given me my hire, because I have given my female servant to my husband. So she called his name Yissaschar. And Leah conceived again, and bore Yaakov a sixth son. And Leah said, Elohim has presented me with a good present. Now my husband is going to dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. So she called his name Zebulun. And afterward she bore a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And Elohim remembered Rahel, and Elohim listened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived, and bore a son, and said, Elohim has taken away my reproach. So she called his name Joseph, and said, The Most High has added to me another son. And it came to be, when Rahel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, Send me on my way, to go to my own place and to my land. Give my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you yourself know my service which I have done for you. And Laban said to him, If I have found favor in your eyes, please stay, for I have diligently watched that the Most High has Barak me for your sake. And he said, Name me your wages, and I give it. So he said to him, You know how I have served you, and how your livestock has been with me. For the little you had before I came has increased greatly, and the Most High has baraked you since my coming. But now, when am I to provide for my own house too? And he said, What do I give you? And Jacob said, Give me naught. If you do this for me, I shall again feed and guard your flocks. Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the black ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. And these shall be my wages, and my righteousness shall answer for me in time to come, when you come concerning my wages. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and black among the lambs, it is stolen if it is with me. And Laban said, See, let it be according to your word. And on that day he put aside the male goats that were speckled and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had some white in it, and all the black ones among the lambs, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he put 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob. And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took for himself rods of green poplar, and of the almond and chestnut trees, peeled white strips in them, and exposed the white which was in the rods. And he put the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters, in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink. And they conceived when they came to drink. So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs, and made the flocks face toward the streaked, and all the black in the flock of Laban. But he put his own flocks by themselves, and did not put them with Laban's flock. And it came to be, whenever the strong ones of the flock conceived, that Jacob placed the rods before the eyes of the flock in the gutters, so they would conceive among the rods. But when the flocks were weak, he did not put them in. So the weak ones were Laban's, and the strong ones Jacob's. Thus the man increased very much, and had many flocks, and female and male servants, and camels and donkeys. Chapter 31. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father he has made all this wealth. And Jacob would look at the face of Laban, and see that it was not toward him as before. And the Most High said to Jacob, Return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I am with you. And Jacob sent and called Rahel and Leah to the field, to his flock, and said to them, I see your father's face, that it is not toward me as before, but the Elohim of my father has been with me, and you know that I have served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But Elohim did not allow him to do evil to me. When he said this, The speckled are your wages, then all the flocks bore speckled. And when he said this, The streaked are your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked. So Elohim has taken away the livestock of your father, and given them to me. And it came to be, at the time when the flocks conceived, that I lifted my eyes and looked in a dream, and saw the rams which leaped upon the flocks were streaked, speckled, and mottled. And the messenger of Elohim spoke to me in a dream, saying, Yaakov. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift your eyes now and see. All the rams which leap on the flocks are streaked, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the Eloth Beth El, where you anointed the standing column, and where you made a vow to me. Now rise up, get out of this land, and return to the land of your relatives. And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Do we still have any portion or inheritance in our father's house? Are we not reckoned by him as strangers? For he has sold us, and also entirely consumed our silver. For all the wealth which Elohim has taken from our father are ours and our children's. Now then, do whatever Elohim has told you. So Yaakov rose and put his sons and his wives on camels, and he drove off all his livestock and all his possessions which he had acquired, his property of the livestock which he had acquired in Paddan Aram, to go to his father Yitzchak in the land of Canaan. And when Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole the house idols that were her father's, and Yaakov stole the heart of Laban the Aramean, because he did not inform him that he was about to flee. And he fled with all that he had. And he rose up and passed over the river, and headed toward the mountains of Gilead. And on the third day Laban was told that Yaakov had fled. Then he took his brothers with him, and pursued him for 7 days' journey. And he overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. But in a dream by night Elohim came to Laban the Aramean, and said to him, Guard yourself, that you do not speak to Yaakov either good or evil. Then Laban overtook Yaakov. Now Yaakov had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brothers pitched in the mountains of Gilead. And Laban said to Yaakov, What have you done, that you have stolen my heart, and driven my daughters off like captives taken with the sword? Why did you flee secretly and deceive me, and not inform me? And I would have sent you away with joy and songs, with tambourine and lyre? And you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have been foolish to do this. It is in the power of my hand to do evil to you. But the Elohim of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Guard yourself, that you do not speak to Yaakov either good or evil. And now you have gone, because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my mighty ones? And Yaakov answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Lest you tear your daughters away from me. With whomever you find your mighty ones, let him not lie. In the presence of our brothers, see for yourself what is with me, and take it with you. For Yaakov did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Yaakov's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the tents of the 2 female servants, but he did not find them. And he came out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the house idols and put them in the camel's saddle, and sat on them. And Laban searched all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, Let it not displease my master that I am unable to rise before you, for the way of women is with me. And he searched, but did not find the house idols. And Yaakov was wroth and contended with Laban. And Yaakov answered and said to Laban, What is my transgression? What is my sin, that you have hotly pursued me? Now that you have searched all my goods, what have you found of all your household goods? Put it here before my brothers and your brothers, and let them decide between the 2 of us. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried their young, and I have not eaten the rams of your sheep. That which was torn by beasts I did not bring to you. I myself bore the loss of it. You required it from my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. I was. By day the heat consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. unless the Elohim of my father, the Elohim of Abraham and the Yah of Yitzchak, had been with me, you would now have sent me away empty-handed. Elohim has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rendered judgment last night. And Laban answered and said to Yaakov, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and this flock is my flock, and all that you see is mine. But what shall I do today to these, my daughters, or to their children whom they have borne? And now, come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and it shall be a witness between you and me. So Yaakov took a stone, and put it up as a standing column. And Yaakov said to his brothers, Gather stones. And they took stones, and made a heap, and they ate there on the heap. And Laban called it Yegar Sahadutha, but Yaakov called it Gad. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between you and me today. That is why its name was called Gad. Also Mitzpah, because he said, Let the Most High watch between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us. See, Elohim is witness between you and me. And Laban said to Yaakov, See this heap, and see this standing column, which I have placed between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this standing column is a witness, that I do not pass beyond this heap to you, and you do not pass beyond this heap and this standing column to me for evil. The Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Nahor, and the Elohim of their father rightly rule between us. And Yaakov swore by the awe of his father Yitzchak. And Yaakov brought an offering on the mountain, and called his brothers to eat bread. And they ate bread, and spent the night on the mountain. And Laban rose up early in the morning, and kissed his sons and daughters, and Barak them. And Laban left, and returned to his place. Chapter 32. And Yaakov went on his way, and the messengers of Elohim met him. And when Yaakov saw them, he said, This is the camp of Elohim. And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. And Yaakov sent messengers before him to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, the field of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, Say this to my master Esau. Your servant Yaakov said this, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. And I have bulls, and donkeys, flocks, and male and female servants. And I have sent to inform my master, to find favor in your eyes. So the messengers returned to Yaakov, saying, Sepsim, we came to your brother Esau, and he also is coming to meet you, and 400 men with him. And Yaakov was greatly afraid and distressed. So he divided the people that were with him, and the flocks and herds and camels, into 2 groups. And he said, If Esau comes to the one group and attacks it, then the other group which is left shall escape. And Yaakov said, O Elohim of my father Abraham and Elohim of my father Yitzchak, the Most High, who said to me, Return to your land and to your relatives, and I do good to you. I do not deserve the least of all the kind acts and all the truth which you have shown your servant. For I passed over this Jordan with my staff, and now I have become 2 groups. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he come and shall smite me and the mother with the children. For you said, I shall certainly do good to you, and shall make your seed as the sand of the sea, which are too numerous to count. And he spent the night there, and took what came to his hand as a present for Esau his brother, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 foals. And he gave into the hand of his servants every drove by itself, and said to his servants, Pass over before me, and put some distance between drove and drove. And he commanded the first one, saying, When Esau my brother meets you and asks you, saying, To whom do you belong, and where are you going, and whose are these in front of you? Then you shall say, They are your servant Yaakov's. It is a present sent to my master Esau. And see, he also is behind us." So he commanded the second, and the third, and all who followed the droves, saying, "Speak to Esau this same word when you find him. And you shall say, Also look, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, Let me appease him with the present that goes before me, and after that see his face. He might accept me." And the present passed over before him. But he himself spent the night in the camp. And he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford of Yahawashi. And he took them, and sent them over the stream, and sent over what he had. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. And when he saw that he did not overcome him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was dislocated as he wrestled with him. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaks." But he said, "I am not letting you go until you have Barak me." So he asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, "Your name is no longer called Jacob, but Israel, because you have striven with Elohim and with men, and have overcome." And Jacob asked him, saying, "Please let me know your name." And he said, "Why do you ask about my name?" And he Barak him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel. "For I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved." And the sun rose on him as he passed over Peniel, and he limped on his hip. That is why the children of Israel to this day do not eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of the thigh of Jacob in the sinew of the hip. Chapter 33. And Jacob lifted his eyes and looked and saw Esau coming, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the 2 female servants. And he put the female servants and their children in front, and Leah and her children behind, and Rachel and Joseph last. And he himself passed over before them, and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him, and embraced him, and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted his eyes and saw the women and children, and said, "Who are these with you?" And he said, "The children with whom Elohim has favored your servant." Then the female servants came near, they and their children, and bowed themselves. And Leah also came near with her children, and they bowed themselves. And Joseph and Rachel came near, and they bowed themselves. Then Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company which I met?" And he said, "To find favor in the eyes of my master." But Esau said, "I have enough, my brother, let what you have remain yours." And Jacob said, "No, please, if I have now found favor in your eyes, then receive my present from my hand, because I have seen your face like seeing the face of Elohim, and you were pleased with me. Please, take my Barakah that is brought to you, because Elohim has favored me, and because I have all." And he urged him, and he took it. And he said, "Let us depart and go, and let me go before you." But he said to him, "My master knows that the children are weak, and the flocks and herds which are nursing are with me. And if the men should drive them hard one day, all the flocks shall die. Please let my master go before his servant, and let me lead on slowly according to the pace of the livestock that go before me, and according to the pace of the children, until I come to my master in Seir." And Esau said, "Please let me leave with you some of the people who are with me." But he said, "Why this? Let me find favor in the eyes of my master." And Esau returned that day on his way to Seir, and Jacob departed to Succoth, and built himself a house, and made booths for his livestock. That is why the name of the place is called Succoth. And Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Paddan Aram, and he pitched his tent before the city. And he bought the portion of the field where he had pitched his tent, from the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 kessedah. And he put up an altar there, and called it HalleluYAH Yisrael. Chapter 34. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the land, saw her, and took her, and lay with her, and humbled her. And his being clung to Dinah the daughter of Jacob. And he loved the girl, and spoke kindly to the girl. And Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, Take this girl for me for a wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his livestock in the field. So Jacob kept silent until they came. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. And the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it. And the men were grieved and very wroth, because he had done a senseless deed in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, which should not be done. But Hamor spoke with them, saying, My son Shechem's being longs for your daughter. Please give her to him for a wife, and intermarry with us. Give us your daughters, and take our daughters for yourselves, and dwell with us, and let the land be before you. Dwell and move about in it, and have possessions in it. And Shechem said to her father and her brothers, Let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me I give. Ask of me a bride price and gift ever so high, and I give according to what you say to me. But give me the girl for a wife. But the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father, and spoke with deceit, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said to them, We are not able to do this matter, to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a reproach to us. Only on this would we agree to you, if you become as we are, to have every male of you circumcised. Then we shall give our daughters to you, and take your daughters to us, and we shall dwell with you, and shall become one people. But if you do not listen to us and be circumcised, we shall take our daughter and go. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man did not delay to do this, because he delighted in Jacob's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the household of his father. And Hamor and Shechem his son came to the gate of their city, and spoke with the men of their city, saying, These men are at peace with us, so let them dwell in the land and move about in it. And see, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters for us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this would the men agree to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised. Their herds and their possessions, and all their beasts, should they not be ours? Only let us agree with them, and let them dwell with us. And all who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and Shechem his son. Every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city. And it came to be on the third day, when they were in pain, that two of the sons of Jacob, Shimon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword and came boldly upon the city and killed all the males. And they killed Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah from Shechem's house, and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and plundered the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds, and their donkeys, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives they took captive, and they plundered all that was in the houses. And Jacob said to Shimon and Levi, You have troubled me by making me a stench among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I am few in number. They shall gather themselves against me, and shall smite me, and I shall be destroyed, my household and I. But they said, Should he treat our sister like a whore? Chapter 35. And Elohim said to Jacob, Arise, go up to Beth El and dwell there, and make an altar there to El who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother. And Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, Put away the foreign mighty ones that are among you, and cleanse yourselves, and change your garments, and let us arise and go up to Beth El. and let me make there an altar to El, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me in the way which I have gone. So they gave Jacob all the 4 mighty ones which were in their hands, and all their earrings which were in their ears. And Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree which was near Shechem. And they departed, and the fear of Elohim was upon the cities that were all around them. And they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. And Jacob came to Luz, that is Beth El, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. And he built there an altar, and called the place El Beth El, because there Elohim appeared to him when he fled from the face of his brother. And Deborah, Ribkah's nurse, died, and she was buried below Beth El under the terebinth tree. So the name of it was called Allen Bacuth. And Elohim appeared to Jacob again, when he came from Paddan Aram, and Barak him. And Elohim said to him, Your name is Jacob. Your name is no longer called Jacob, but Yisrael is your name. So he called his name Yisrael. And Elohim said to him, I am El Shaddai. Bear fruit and increase. A nation and a company of nations shall be from you, and sovereigns come from your body. And the land which I gave Abraham and Yitzchak I give to you, and to your seed after you I give this land. And Elohim went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. And Jacob put up a standing column in the place where he had spoken with him, a monument of stone. And he poured a drink offering on it, and he poured oil on it. And Jacob called the name of the place where Elohim spoke with him, Beth El. Then they departed from Beth El. And it came to be, when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath, that Rahel began to give birth, and had great difficulty giving birth. And it came to be, as she was having great difficulty giving birth, that the midwife said to her, Do not fear, for it is another son for you. And it came to be, as her life was going out, for she died, that she called his name Ben-Oni. But his father called him by Naaman. So Rahel died, and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Jacob put a standing column on her grave, which is the monument of Rahel's grave to this day. And Yisrael departed, and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Eder. And it came to be, when Yisrael dwelt in that land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Yisrael heard about it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Shimon, and Lui, and Yehudah, and Yissaschar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rahel were Joseph and Binyamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rahel's female servant, were Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's female servant, were Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Paddan Aram. And Jacob came to his father Yitzchak at Mamre, or Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Yitzchak had dwelt. And the days of Yitzchak were 180 years. So Yitzchak breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, aged and satisfied of days. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Chapter 36. And this is the genealogy of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan, Adah the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Sibon the Hivite, and Basemath, Yishmael's daughter, sister of Nebath. And Adah bore Eliphaz to Esau, and Basemath bore Reuel, and Oholibamah bore Yush, and Yalam, and Korah. These were the sons of Esau, who were born to him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his wives, and his sons, and his daughters, and all the beings of his household, and his herds, and all his beasts, and all his possessions which he had gained in the land of Canaan, and went to a land away from the presence of his brother Jacob. For their possessions were too great for them to dwell together, and the land of their sojournings could not support them because of their herds. So Esau dwelt in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. And this is the genealogy of Esau, the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir. These were the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz son of Adah, wife of Esau, and Reuel son of Basemath, wife of Asah. And the sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Sepho, and Garam, and Kenaz. And Timnah was the concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bore Amalek to Eliphaz. These were the sons of Adah, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Reuel, Nahath and Zerah, Shammah and Mizah. These were the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Oholibamah, Esau's wife, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Tsiban. And she bore to Esau Yeush and Yalam and Korah. These were the chiefs of the sons of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn son of Esau, were Chief Teman, Chief Omar, Chief Sepho, Chief Kenaz, Chief Korah, Chief Gadam, Chief Amalek. These were the chiefs of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. They were the sons of Adah. And these were the sons of Reuel, Esau's son, Chief Nahath, Chief Zerah, Chief Shammah, and Chief Mizah. These were the chiefs of Reuel in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. And these were the sons of Oholibamah, Esau's wife, Chief Yeush, Chief Yalam, and Chief Korah. These were the chiefs from Oholibamah, Esau's wife, the daughter of Anah. These were the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these were their chiefs. These were the sons of Serer, the Horite who inhabited the land, Lotan, and Shobal, and Sibon, and Anah, and Dishan, and Etzer, and Dishan. These were the chiefs of the Horites, the sons of Seir, in the land of Edom. And the sons of Lotan were Hori and Hemam. Lotan's sister was Timnah. And these were the sons of Shobal, Alwyn, and Manahath, and Ibal, Shepho, and Onam. And these were the sons of Tsiban, both Ayah and Anah. This was the Anah who found the water in the wilderness, as he fed the donkeys of his father Tsiban. And these were the children of Anah, Dishan and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah. And these were the sons of Dishan, Hemdan, and Eshban, and Yithran, and Karen. These were the sons of Etzer, Bilhan, and Zawin, and Achan. These were the sons of Dishan, Utz, and Aaron. These were the chiefs of the Horites, Chief Lotan, Chief Shobal, Chief Tsiban, Chief Anah, Chief Dishan, Chief Etzer, and Chief Disham. These were the chiefs of the Horites, according to their chiefs in the land of Seir. And these were the sovereigns who reigned in the land of Edom, before any sovereign reigned over the children of Israel. And Bela the son of Beer reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhabah. And Bela died, and Jobab son of Zerah of Botzra reigned in his place. And Jobab died, and Husham of the land of the Temanites reigned in his place. And Husham died, and Hadad son of Bedad, who smote Midian in the field of Moab, reigned in his place. And the name of his city was Awith. And Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his place. And Samlah died, and Shaul of Rehoboth Hanahar reigned in his place. And Shaul died, and Baal-Hanan son of Akbar reigned in his place. And Baal-Hanan son of Akbar died, and Hadar reigned in his place. And the name of his city was Pau. And his wife's name was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahab. And these were the names of the chiefs of Esau, according to their clans and their places, by their names: Chief Timnah, Chief Alwah, Chief Yetheth, Chief Oholibamah, Chief Elah, Chief Penan, Chief Kenaz, Chief Teman, Chief Mibzar, Chief Magdiel, Chief Aram. These were the chiefs of Edom, according to their dwelling places in the land of their possession. Esau was the father of the Edomites. Chapter 37. And Jacob dwelt in the land of his father's sojournings, in the land of Canaan. This is the genealogy of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the young man was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought an evil report of them to his father. And Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a long robe. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and were not able to speak peaceably to him. And Joseph dreamed a dream and told it to his brothers, so they hated him even more. And he said to them, "Please listen to this dream which I have dreamed. See, we were binding sheaves in the midst of the field, and see, my sheaf rose up and also stood up. And see, your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us? Shall you indeed rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed still another dream, and related it to his brothers, and said, "See, I have dreamed another dream, and see, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to me." And he related it to his father and his brothers. And his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall we, your mother and I and your brothers, indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?" And his brothers envied him, but his father guarded the word. And his brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers feeding in Shechem? Come, I send you to them." So he said to him, "Here I am." And he said to him, "Please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the sheep, and bring back word to me." So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he went to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and see, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, "What do you seek?" And he said, "I am seeking my brothers. Please inform me where they are feeding their sheep." And the man said, "They have left here, for I heard them say, 'Let us go towards Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. And they saw him from a distance, and before he came near them, they plotted against him, to kill him. And they said to each other, "See, this master of dreams is coming. Now, then, come and let us now kill him and throw him into some pit, and shall say, 'Some wild beast has devoured him.' Let us then see what comes of his dreams." But Reuben heard and rescued him from their hands, and said, "Let us not take his life." And Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, in order to rescue him out of their hands, and bring him back to his father." So it came to be, when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph of his robe, the long robe which was on him. And they took him and threw him into a pit. And the pit was empty, there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat a meal. And they lifted their eyes and looked and saw a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices and balm and myrrh, going to take them down to Mitzrayim. And Yahudah said to his brothers, "What would we gain if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our flesh." And his brothers listened. And Midianite traders passed by. So they pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they took Joseph to Mitzrayim. And Reuben returned to the pit. And see, Joseph was not in the pit. And he tore his garments. And he returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is gone, and I, where am I to go?" So they took Joseph's robe, killed a male goat, and dipped the robe in the blood, and sent the long robe, and brought it to their father, and said, "We have found this. Please look, is it the robe of your son or not?" And he recognized it and said, "It is my son's robe. An evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is torn to pieces." And Jacob tore his garments, and put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted, and he said, "Now let me go down into the grave to my son in mourning." So his father wept for him. And the Midianites had sold him in Mitzrayim to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. Chapter 38. And at that time it came to be that Yahudah left his brothers, and turned aside to a man, an Adullamite, whose name was Hera. And Yahudah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went into her. So she conceived and bore a son, and he called his name And she conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. And she conceived yet again and bore a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Kezib when she bore him. And Yahudah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Yahudah's firstborn, was evil in the eyes of the Most High, and the Most High took his life. And Yahudah said to Onan, Go into your brother's wife and marry her, and raise up an heir to your brother. And Onan knew that the offspring would not be his. And it came to be, when he went into his brother's wife, that he spilled on the ground, lest he should give an offspring to his brother. But what he did displeased the Most High, so he took his life too. Then Yahudah said to Tamar his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah is grown. For he said, Lest he also die as his brothers did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And after a long time the daughter of Shua, Yahudah's wife, died. And Yahudah was comforted, and went up to his sheep shearers at Timnah, he and his friend Hera the Adullamite. And it was reported to Tamar, saying, See, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. And she took off her widow's garments, and covered herself with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat at the entrance to Enaim, which was on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him as a wife. And Yahudah saw her, and reckoned her for a whore, for she had covered her face. And he turned aside to her by the way, and said, Please let me come in to you, for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What do you give me to come in to me? And he said, Let me send you a young goat from the flock. And she said, Do you give me a pledge until you send it? So he said, What pledge should I give you? And she said, Your seal and your cord and your staff that is in your hand. And he gave them to her, and went in to her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and went away, and removed her veil, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Yahudah sent the young goat by the hand of his friend, the Adullamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand. But he did not find her. And he asked the men of that place, saying, Where is the cult prostitute who was beside the way to Enaim? And they said, There was no cult prostitute in this place. And he returned to Yahudah and said, I have not found her. And the men of the place also said, There was no cult prostitute in this place. And Yahudah said, Let her take them for herself, lest we become despised. For I sent this young goat, and you have not found her. And it came to be, about 3 months after, that Yahudah was informed, saying, Tamar your daughter-in-law has whored, and see, she has conceived by whoring. And Yahudah said, Bring her out, and let her be burned. When she was brought out, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, Nessa, by the man to whom these belong, I am pregnant. And she said, Please examine whose these are, the seal and the cord and the staff. And Yahudah examined and said, She has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah my son. And he never knew her again. And it came to be, at the time for giving birth, that see, twins were in her womb. And it came to be, when she was giving birth, that the one put out his hand. And the midwife took a scarlet thread and bound it on his hand, saying, This one came out first. And it came to be, as he drew back his hand, that see, his brother came out. And she said, How did you break through? This breach be upon you. So his name was called Peretz. And afterward his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread on his hand. So his name was called Zerah. Chapter 39. And Yosef had been taken down to Mitzrayim, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, a Mitzrayite, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. And it came to be that the Most High was with Yosef, and he became a prosperous man, and was in the house of his master, the Mitzrayite. And his master saw that the Most High was with him, and that the Most High made all he did to prosper in his hand. So Yosef found favor in his eyes, and served him, and he appointed him over his house, and gave into his hand all that he had. And it came to be, from the time that he appointed him over his house, and all that he had, that the Most High Barak the Mitzrayite's house for Yosef's sake, and the Barakah of the Most High was on all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left in Yosef's hand all that he had, and he did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate. And Yosef was handsome in form and handsome appearance. And after these events it came to be that his master's wife lifted up her eyes to Yosef and said, "Lie with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has given into my hand all that he has. No one is greater in this house than I, and he has not withheld whatever from me, but you, because you are his wife. And how shall I do this great evil and sin against Elohim?" And it came to be, as she spoke to Yosef day by day, that he did not listen to her, to lie with her, to be with her. And it came to be on a certain day, when Yosef went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was inside, that she caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand, and fled and ran outside. And it came to be, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, that she called to the men of her house and spoke to them, saying, "See, he has brought in to us an Ibri to mock us. He came in to me to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And it came to be, when he heard that I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me, and fled and went outside. And she kept his garment with her until his master came home. And she spoke to him these same words, saying, The Ibri servant whom you brought to us came in to me, to mock me. So it came to be, as I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled outside. And it came to be, when his master heard the words which his wife spoke to him, saying, Your servant did to me according to these words, that his displeasure burned. Then Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the sovereign's prisoners were confined, and he was there in the prison. But the Most High was with Joseph and extended kindness to him, and he gave him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. And the prison warden gave into the hand of Joseph all the prisoners who were in the prison, and whatever was done, there was his doing. The prison warden did not look into any point that was under Joseph's hand, because the Most High was with him, and whatever he did, the Most High made it prosper. Chapter 40. And after these events it came to be that the cupbearer and the baker of the sovereign of Mitzrayim sinned against their master, the sovereign of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh was wroth with his two officers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. So he put them in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard, in the prison, the place where Joseph was a prisoner. And the captain of the guard put Joseph in charge of them, and he served them. So they were in confinement for some time. Then the cupbearer and the baker of the sovereign of Mitzrayim, who were confined in the prison, dreamed a dream, both of them, each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream with its own interpretation. And Joseph came in to them in the morning, and looked at them, and saw that they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers, who were with him in confinement of his master's house, saying, Why do you look so sad today? And they said to him, We each have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. And Joseph said to them, Do not interpretations belong to Elohim? Relate them to me, please. So the chief cupbearer related his dream to Joseph, and said to him, See, In my dream, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, its blossoms shot forth, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes, and Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. So I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet, within 3 days Pharaoh is going to lift up your head and restore you to your place. And you shall put Pharaoh's cup in his hand according to the former ruling, when you were his cupbearer. But remember me when it is well with you, and please show kindness to me, and mention me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this house. For truly I was stolen away from the land of the Ibrim, and also I have done naught that they should put me into the dungeon. And the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, and he said to Joseph, I also was in my dream, and saw 3 white baskets were on my head, and in the uppermost basket all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, and the birds ate them out of the basket on my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet, within 3 days Pharaoh is going to lift off your head from you, and hang you on a tree, and the birds shall eat your flesh from you. And on the 3rd day, Pharaoh's birthday, it came to be that he made a feast for all his servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief cupbearer to his post of cupbearer again. And he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. And the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Chapter 41. And it came to be, at the end of 2 years' time, that Pharaoh had a dream, and saw him standing by the river, and saw 7 cows coming up out of the river, fine looking and fat, and they fed amongst the reeds. Then saw 7 other cows coming up after them out of the river, ugly and lean of flesh, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the river. And the ugly and lean of flesh cows ate up the 7 fine looking and fat cows. Then Pharaoh awoke, and he slept and dreamed a 2nd time, and saw 7 heads of grain coming up on one stalk, plump and good, and saw 7 lean heads, scorched by the east wind, coming up after them. And the 7 lean heads swallowed the 7 plump and complete heads. Then Pharaoh awoke, and saw it was a dream. And it came to be in the morning that his spirit was moved. And he sent and called for all the magicians of Mitzrayim, and all its wise men. And Pharaoh related to them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them for Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my crimes this day, when Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard, both me and the chief baker. Each one of us dreamed a dream in one night, he and I. Each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. And there was with us an Hebrew youth, a servant of the captain of the guard, and we related to him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And it came to be, as he interpreted for us, so it came to be. He restored me to my office, and he hanged him. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they hurriedly brought him out of the dungeon. And he shaved and changed his garments, and came to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. Now I myself have heard it said of you that you understand a dream, to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. Let Elohim answer Pharaoh with peace. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, See, in my dream I stood on the bank of the river, and saw 7 cows coming up out of the river, fine looking and fat, and they fed amongst the reeds. Then saw 7 other cows coming up after them, poor and very ugly and lean of flesh, such ugliness as I have never seen in all the land of Mitzrayim. And the lean of flesh and ugly cows ate up the first 7, the fat cows. Yet when they had eaten them up, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were as ugly as at the beginning. Then I awoke. Also, I looked in my dream and saw 7 heads coming up on one stalk, complete and good. Then saw 7 heads, withered, lean, scorched by the east wind, coming up after them. And the lean heads swallowed the 7 good heads. And I spoke to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, "The dream of Pharaoh is one. Elohim has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are 7 years. It is one dream. And the 7 lean and ugly cows which came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty heads scorched by the east wind are 7 years of scarcity of food. This is the word which I spoke to Pharaoh. Elohim has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. See, 7 years of great plenty are coming in all the land of Mitzrayim. But after them 7 years of scarcity of food shall arise, and all the plenty be forgotten in the land of Mitzrayim. And the scarcity of food shall destroy the land, and the plenty shall not be remembered in the land, because of the scarcity of food following, for it is very severe. And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice, because the word is established by Elohim, and Elohim is hastening to do it. And now, let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man, and appoint him over the land of Mitzrayim. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint overseers over the land, to take up 1/5 of the land of Mitzrayim in the 7 years of plenty, and let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And the food shall be for a store for the land for the 7 years of scarcity of food, which shall be in the land of Mitzrayim. And do not let the land be cut off by the scarcity of food. And the word was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, Could we find another like him, a man in whom is the Ruah of Elohim? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, Since Elohim has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. Be over my house, you yourself, and at your word all my people shall be equipped only in the throne. I am greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, See, I have appointed you over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh took his seal ring off his hand, and put it on Joseph's hand. And he dressed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. 3, and he had him ride in the 2nd chariot which he had. And they cried out before him, Bow the knee. And he appointed him over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without you let no man lift his hand or foot in all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Saphnath-Paneah, and he gave him as a wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Mitzrayim. Now Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh sovereign of Mitzrayim. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went throughout all the land of Mitzrayim. And in the 7 years of plenty the ground brought forth generously. And he gathered all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Mitzrayim, and laid up the food in the cities. He laid up in every city the food of the fields which surrounded them. Thus Joseph gathered very much grain, as the sand of the sea, until he ceased counting, for it was without number. And to Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of scarcity of food came, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera priest of On, bore to him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for Elohim has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, for Elohim has caused me to bear fruit in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenty which were in the land of Mitzrayim came to an end, and the 7 years of scarcity of food began to come, as Joseph had said. And the scarcity of food was in all lands. But in all the land of Mitzrayim there was bread. But when all the land of Mitzrayim hungered, and the people cried to Pharaoh for bread, Pharaoh said to all the Mitzrites, Go to Joseph, do whatever he says to you. And the scarcity of food was over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Mitzrites. And the scarcity of food was severe in the land of Mitzrayim. And all the earth came to Joseph in Mitzrayim to buy grain, because the scarcity of food was severe in all the earth. Chapter 42. And when Yaakov saw that there was grain in Mitzrayim, Yaakov said to his sons, "Why do you look at each other?" And he said, "See, I have heard that there is grain in Mitzrayim. Go down to that place and buy for us there, and let us live and not die." And Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Mitzrayim. But Yaakov did not send Joseph's brother Binyamin with his brothers, for he said, lest some harm come to him. And the sons of Israel went to buy grain among those who journeyed, for the scarcity of food was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed down before him with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them. But he acted as a stranger to them, and spoke to them harshly, and said to them, "Where do you come from?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." So Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed about them, and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." And they said to him, "No, my master, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all one man's sons. We are trustworthy. Your servants are not spies." But he said to them, "No, but you have come to see the nakedness of the land." And they said, "Your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And see, the youngest is with our father today, and one is no more." And Joseph said to them, "It is as I spoke to you, saying, You are spies. By this you shall be proven. By the life of Pharaoh, you do not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you, and let him bring your brother, while you are kept in prison. So let your words be proven to see whether there is any truth in you, or else, by the life of Pharaoh, you are spies." And he put them all together in prison for 3 days. Now Joseph said to them the 3rd day, "Do this and live, for I revere Elohim. If you are trustworthy, let one of your brothers be confined to your prison house, and you go, bring grain for the scarcity of food of your houses, and bring your youngest brother to me, and let your words be confirmed, and you do not die." And so they did. And they said to each other, "Truly, we are guilty concerning our brother, for we saw the distress of his life when he pleaded with us. Yet we did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us." And Reuben answered them, saying, "Did I not speak to you, saying, Do not sin against the boy, and you would not listen? And see, his blood is now required of us." And they did not know that Joseph understood them, for he spoke to them through an interpreter. And he turned himself away from them and wept, but came back to them and spoke to them. And he took Shimon from them, and bound him before their eyes. And Joseph commanded, and they filled their sacks with grain, also to put back every man's silver into his sack, and to give them food for the journey. And thus it was done for them. So they loaded their donkeys with the grain, and went from there. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder at the lodging place, he saw his silver, for there it was in the mouth of his sack. And he said to his brothers, "My silver has been returned, and there it is, in my sack." And their hearts sank, and they were afraid, saying to each other, "What is this that Elohim has done to us?" So they came to Yaakov their father in the land of Canaan, and reported to him all that befell them, saying, "The man, the master of the land, spoke to us harshly, and took us for spies of the land. But we said to him, We are trustworthy, we are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is today with our father in the land of Canaan." And the man, the master of the land, said to us, "By this I know that you are trustworthy. leave one of your brothers here with me, and take food for the scarcity of food of your households, and go, and bring your youngest brother to me. Then I know that you are not spies, but that you are trustworthy. I give your brother to you, and you move about in the land. And it came to be, as they emptied their sacks, that look, the bundle of each man's silver was in his sack. And when they and their father saw the bundles of silver, they were afraid. And Yaakov their father said to them, You have bereaved me. Joseph is no more, and Shimon is no more, and you would take Binyamin. All this is against me. So Reuben spoke to his father, saying, Take the lives of my 2 sons, if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I myself bring him back to you. But he said, My son is not going down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If any harm should come to him along the way in which you go, then you would bring down my gray hair with sorrow to the grave. Chapter 43. But the scarcity of food was severe in the land. And it came to be, when they had eaten up the grain which they had brought from Mitzrayim, that their father said to them, Go back, buy us a little food. But Yahudah spoke to him, saying, The man vehemently warned us, saying, You do not see my face, unless your brother is with you. If you let our brother go with us, we go down and buy you food. But if you do not let him go, we do not go down, because the man said to us, You do not see my face, unless your brother is with you. And Israel said, Why did you do evil to me to inform the man that you still had a brother? And they said, The man kept asking about us and our relative, saying, Is your father still alive? Have you a brother? And we informed him according to these words. How could we know that he would say, Bring your brother down? And Yahudah said to Israel his father, Send the boy with me, and let us arise and go, and live and not die, both we and you, and also our little ones. I myself shall stand guarantor for him from my hand. You are to require him. If I do not bring him back to you, and put him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. For if we have not delayed, truly by now we could have returned this second time. And their father Israel said to them, If so, then do this. Take some of the best fruit of the land in your vessels, and bring a present down for the man, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds. And take double silver in your hand, and take back in your hand the silver that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. It could have been a mistake. And take your brother, and arise, go back to the man. And Shaddai give to you compassion before the man, so that he shall release your other brother and Binyamin. And Shaddai give to you compassion before the man, so that he shall release your other brother and Binyamin. And I, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved. And the men took that present and Binyamin, and they took double the amount of silver in their hand, and arose and went down to Mitzrayim, and stood before Joseph. And Joseph saw Binyamin with them, and said to the one over his house, Bring the men home, and make a great slaughter, and prepare, for these men are to eat with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph said, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid, because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, It is because of the silver, which was put back into our sacks the first time, that we are brought in, to throw himself upon us and fall upon us, to take us as slaves, our donkeys too. So they came near to the man over the house of Joseph, and spoke to him at the door of the house, and said, O my master, we indeed came down the first time to buy food. But it came to be, when we came to the lodging place, that we opened our sacks and saw each man's silver in the mouth of his sack, our silver in its weight, and we have brought it back in our hand. And we have brought down other silver in our hands to buy food. We do not know who put our silver in our sacks. But he said, Peace be with you, do not be afraid. Your Elohim and the Elohim of your father has given you treasure in your sacks. Your silver had come to me. And he brought Shimon out to them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their donkeys fodder. And they made the present ready for Joseph's coming at noon, for they heard that they were to eat there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed down before him to the earth. And he asked them about their welfare, and said, Is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive? And they said, Your servant our father is in good health. He is still alive. And they bowed their heads down, and did obeisance. And he lifted his eyes, and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is this your younger brother of whom you spoke to me? And he said, Elohim show favor to you, my son. And Joseph hurried, for his emotions were deeply moved towards his brother, and he looked to weep, and went into his room, and wept there. Then he washed his face, and came out, and controlled himself, and said, Serve the food. And they placed him by himself, and them by themselves, and the Mitzrites who ate with him by themselves. For the Mitzrites could not eat food with the Ibram, for that is an abomination to the Mitzrites. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at each other in astonishment. And he took portions to them from before him. But Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs. And they feasted, and they drank with him. Chapter 44. And he commanded the one over his house, saying, Fill the men's sacks with food, as they are able to bear, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, and the silver for his grain. And he did according to the word of Joseph which he spoke. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their donkeys. And when they had gone out of the city, not having gone far, Joseph said to the one over his house, Rise up, follow the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, Why have you repaid evil for good? Is this not the one from which my master drinks, and with which he indeed divines? You have done evil in what you have done. So he overtook them, and spoke these words to them. And they said to him, Why does my master say these words? Far be it from us that your servants should do according to this word. See, we brought back to you from the land of Canaan the silver which we found in the mouth of our sacks. How then should we steal silver or gold from your master's house? With whomever of your servants it is found he shall die, and we shall become my master's slaves as well. And he said, Now also let it be according to your words. He with whom it is found becomes my slave, and you are innocent. And they hurried. Each man let down his sack to the ground, and each opened his sack. And he searched, with the oldest first, and with the youngest last. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. And they tore their garments. And each man loaded his donkey, and went back to the city. And Yahudah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, and he was still there. And they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said to them, What deed is this you have done? Did you not know that a man like me indeed divines? And Yahudah said, What do we say to my master? What do we speak? Or how do we clear ourselves? Elohim has found out the wickedness of your servants. See, we are my master's slaves, both we, and he also with whom the cup was found. But he said, Far be it from me to do this. The man in whose hand the cup was found, he becomes my slave, and you, go up in peace to your father. And Yahudah came near to him and said, O my master, please let your servant speak a word in my master's hearing, and do not let your displeasure burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh. My master asked his servant, saying, Have you a father or a brother? And we said to my master, We have a father, an old man, and a young child of his old age, and his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him. And you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, and let me lay my eyes on him. And we said to my master, the boy is not able to leave his father, for if he leaves his father shall die. But you said to your servants, unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you do not see my face again. And it came to be, when we went up to your servant my father, that we told him the words of my master. And our father said, go back and buy us a little food. But we said, we are not able to go down. If our youngest brother is with us, then we shall go down, for we are not able to see the man's face, unless our youngest brother is with us. Then your servant my father said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons, and the one went out from me. And I said, truly, he is torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. And if you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you shall bring down my gray hair with evil to the grave. And now, if I come to your servant my father, and the boy is not with us, since his own life is bound up in his life, then it shall be, when he sees that the boy is not with us, that he shall die. So your servants shall bring down the gray hair of your servant our father with sorrow to the grave. For your servant went guarantor for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall be a sinner before my father forever. And now, please let your servant remain instead of the boy as a slave to my master, and let the boy go up with his brothers. For how do I go up to my father if the boy is not with me, lest I see the evil that would come upon my father? Chapter 45. And Joseph was unable to restrain himself before all those who stood by him. And he called out, have everyone go out from me. So no one stood with him, while Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud. And the Mitzrites in the house of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were unable to answer him, for they trembled before him. Then Joseph said to his brothers, please come near to me. And when they came near, he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom you sold into Mitzrayim. And now, do not be grieved nor displeased with yourselves, because you sold me here. For Elohim sent me before you to preserve life. For 2 years now the scarcity of food has been in the land, and there are still 5 years in which there is neither plowing nor harvesting. And Elohim sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth, and to give life to you by a great escape. So then, you did not send me here, but Elohim, and he has appointed me for a father to Pharaoh, and master of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Mitzrayim. Hurry and go up to my father, and say to him, thus says your son Joseph, Elohim has made me master of all Mitzrayim. Come down to me, do not delay, and you shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and be near to me, you and your children, your children's children, your flocks and your herds, and all that you have, and I shall provide for you there, lest you and your household, and all that you have, come to poverty, because 5 years of scarcity of food are still to come. And look, your eyes and the eyes of my brother Binyamin see that it is my mouth that speaks to you. And you shall inform my father of all my esteem in Mitzrayim, and of all that you have seen. And you shall hurry and bring my father down here. And he fell on his brother Binyamin's neck and wept. And Binyamin wept on his neck. And he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. And after that his brothers spoke with him. And the report of it was heard by the house of Pharaoh, saying, the brothers of Joseph have come. And it was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, say to your brothers, do this, load your beasts and go, enter the land of Canaan, and take your father and your households and come to me. And I give you the best of the land of Mitzrayim, and you eat the fatness of the land. And you have been commanded, do this, take wagons out of the land of Mitzrayim for your little ones and your wives, and you shall bring your father, and come. And do not be concerned about your goods, for the best of all the land of Mitzrayim is yours. And the sons of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons, according to the command of Pharaoh, and he gave them food for the journey. He gave to all of them, to each man, changes of garments. But to Binyamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of garments. And he sent to his father this: 10 donkeys loaded with the best of Mitzrayim, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, and bread, and food for his father for the journey. So he sent his brothers away, and they left. And he said to them, Do not quarrel along the way. And they went up out of Mitzrayim, and came to the land of Canaan to Yaakov their father. And they told him, saying, Joseph is still alive, and he is governor over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Yaakov's heart ceased, for he did not believe them. But when they spoke to him all the words which Joseph had spoken to them, and when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to transport him, the spirit of Yaakov their father revived. And Israel said, Enough, my son Joseph is still alive. Let me go and see him before I die. Chapter 46. And Israel departed with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and brought offerings to the Elohim of his father Yitzchak. And Elohim spoke to Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Yaakov, Yaakov. And he said, Here I am. And he said, I am the Elohim of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Mitzrayim, for I shall make you there into a great nation. I myself am going down with you to Mitzrayim, and I myself shall certainly bring you up again. And let Joseph put his hand on your eyes. And Yaakov rose up from Beersheba. And the sons of Israel brought their father Yaakov, and their little ones, and their wives, in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to transport him. And they took their livestock and their property which they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and came into Mitzrayim, Yaakov and all his seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed he brought with him to Mitzrayim. And these were the names of the children of Israel, Yaakov and his sons, who came into Mitzrayim. Reuben was Yaakov's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben, Hanok, and Palu, and Hetzron, and Carmi. And the sons of Shemen, Yemiel, and Yamin, and Ohad, and Yechim, and Zohar, and Shaul, son of a Canaanite woman. And the sons of Lui, Jerishan, Kehath, and Merari. And the sons of Yehudah, and Onan, and Shelah, and Peretz, and Zerah, but and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Peretz were Hetzron and Hamel. And the sons of Yisachar, Tola, and Puah, and Yab, and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun, Serd, and Elon, and Yael. These were the sons of Leah, whom she bore to Yaakov in Paddan Aram, with his daughter Dinah. All the beings, his sons and his daughters, were 33. And the sons of Gad, Siphion and Hagi, Shuni and Etzben, Eri and Arodi, and Erli. And the sons of Asher, Yimnah, and Yishwa, and Yishwi, and Beriah, and Sarah, their sister. And the sons of Beriah, Heber and Machil. These were the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter. And these she bore to Yaakov, 16 beings. The sons of Rahel, Yaakov's wife, Joseph and Binyamin. And to Joseph in the land of Mitzrayim were born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Asenate, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore to him. And the sons of Binyamin, Bela and Becher, and Ashbel, Jireh and Naaman, Ahai and Rosh, Moppim and Huppim, and Ard. These were the sons of Rahel, who were born to Yaakov, 14 beings in all. And the son of Dan, Hashem. And the sons of Naphtali, Yatzil, and Guni, and Yetzer, and Shillem. These were the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to Rahel his daughter, and she bore these to Yaakov, 7 beings in all. All the beings who went with Yaakov to Mitzrayim, who came from his body, besides Yaakov's sons' wives, were 66 beings in all. And the sons of Joseph, who were born to him in Mitzrayim, were 2 beings. all the beings of the house of Jacob who went to Mitzrayim were 70. And he sent Yehudah before him to Joseph, to point out before him the way to Goshen. And they came to the land of Goshen. And Joseph made ready his chariot, and went up to Goshen to meet his father Israel. And he appeared to him, and fell on his neck, and wept on his neck a long time. And Israel said to Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen your face, that you are still alive. And Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, I am going up to inform Pharaoh, and say to him, My brothers and those of my father's house, who were in the land of Canaan, have come to me, and the men are shepherds, that they have been men of livestock, and they have brought their flocks and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall be, when Pharaoh calls you and says, What is your occupation? That you shall say, Your servants have been men of livestock from our youth, even till now, both we and also our fathers, so that ye dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination to the Mitzrites. Chapter 47. Then Joseph went and spoke to Pharaoh, and said, My father and my brothers, their flocks and their herds, and all that they possess, have come from the land of Canaan, and see, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took 5 men from among his brothers, and presented them to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to his brothers, What is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, Your servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. And they said to Pharaoh, We have come to dwell in the land, because there is no pasture for your servants' flocks, for the scarcity of food is severe in the land of Canaan. And now, please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, Your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Mitzrayim is before you. Settle your father and brothers in the best of the land. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. And if you know of capable men among them, then make them chief herdsmen over my livestock. And Joseph brought in his father Jacob, and stood him before Pharaoh. And Jacob Barak Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, How many are the days of your life? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, The days of the years of my sojournings are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not reached the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their sojournings. And Jacob Barak Pharaoh, and went out from before Pharaoh. So Joseph settled his father and his brothers, and gave them a possession in the land of Mitzrayim, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph provided his father and his brothers, and all his father's household with bread for the mouth of the little ones. Now there was no bread in all the land, because the scarcity of food was very severe, and the land of Mitzrayim and all the land of Canaan became exhausted from the scarcity of food. And Joseph gathered up all the silver that was found in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan, for the grain which they bought. And Joseph brought the silver into Pharaoh's house. And when the silver was all spent in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan, all the Mitzrites came to Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the silver is gone. And Joseph said, Give your livestock, and I give you bread for your livestock, if the silver is gone. So they brought their livestock to Joseph. And Joseph gave them bread in exchange for the horses, and for the flocks they owned, and for the herds they owned, and for the donkeys. Thus he fed them with bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. And when that year had ended, they came to him the next year and said to him, We do not hide from my master that our silver is all spent, and my master also has the livestock we own. There has not any been left before my master, but our bodies and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and let us and our land be servants of Pharaoh, and give us seed, and let us live and not die, and let the land not lie waste. And Joseph bought the entire land of Mitzrayim for Pharaoh, because every man of the Mitzrites sold his field. because the scarcity of food was severe upon them, and the land came to be Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he moved them into the cities, from one end of the borders of Mitzrayim to the other end. Only the ground of the priests he did not buy, for the priests had allotments from Pharaoh, and they ate their allotments which Pharaoh gave them. Therefore they did not sell their ground. And Joseph said to the people, Look, I have bought you and your land today for Pharaoh. Look, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And it shall be that in the harvest you shall give 1/5 to Pharaoh, and 4/5 is your own, as seed for the field and for your food, for those of your households, and as food for your little ones. And they said, You have saved our lives. Let us find favor in the eyes of my master, and we shall become Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Mitzrayim to this day, that Pharaoh should have 1/5, except for the ground of the priests only, which did not become Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Mitzrayim, in the land of Goshen. And they had possessions there, and bore fruit, and increased exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Mitzrayim 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. And the time for Israel to die drew near. And he called his son Joseph, and said to him, Now if I have found favor in your eyes, please put your hand under my thigh, and show kindness and truth to me. Please do not bury me in Mitzrayim, but I shall lie with my fathers, and you shall take me up out of Mitzrayim, and bury me in their burial place. And he said, I do as you have said. And he said, Swear to me. And he swore to him. And Israel bowed himself on the head of the bed. Chapter 48. And after these events it came to be that it was said to Joseph, See, your father is sick. And he took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Jacob was told, See, your son Joseph is coming to you. And Israel strengthened himself and sat up on the bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and Barak me, and said to me, See, I am making you bear fruit, and shall increase you and make of you an assembly of peoples, and give this land to your seed after you as an everlasting possession. And now your 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Mitzrayim, before I came to you in Mitzrayim, are mine as Reuben and Shimon. They are mine. Your offspring whom you shall bring forth after them are yours, and let them be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. And I, when I came from Paddan, Rahel died beside me in the land of Canaan on the way, when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath. And I buried her there on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Israel saw Joseph's sons, and said, Who are these? And Joseph said to his father, They are my sons, whom Elohim has given me in this place. And he said, Please bring them to me, and let me Barak them. And the eyes of Israel were dim with age, and he was unable to see. And he drew them near him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I had not thought to see your face, but see, Elohim has also shown me your seed. So Joseph brought them from between his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near him. And Israel stretched out his right hand, and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, consciously directing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he baraked Joseph, and said, The Elohim before whom my fathers Abraham and Yitzchak walked, the Elohim who has fed me all my life long to this day, the messenger who has redeemed me from all evil barak the youth, and let my name be called upon them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Yitzchak, and let them increase to a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it was evil in his eyes, and he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from the head of Ephraim to the head of Manasseh. And Joseph said to his father, Not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also becomes a people, and he also is great. And yet, his younger brother is greater than he, and his seed is to become the completeness of the nations. And he Barak them on that day, saying, In you Yisrael shall Barak, saying, Elohim make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh. And Yisrael said to Yosef, See, I am dying, but Elohim shall be with you, and bring you back to the land of your fathers. And I have given to you one portion above your brothers, which I took from the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. Chapter 49. And Yaakov called his sons and said, Gather together, so that I declare to you what is to befall you in the last days. Gather together and hear, ye sons of Yaakov, and listen to Yisrael your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my power and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of exaltation, and the excellency of power. Unstable as the waters, you do not excel, because you went up to your father's bed. Then you defiled it, he went up to my couch. Shimon and Levi are brothers. Their weapons are implements of violence. Let my being not enter their council. Let my esteem not be united to their assembly. Because they slew a man in their displeasure, and they lamed an ox in pleasure. Cursed be their displeasure, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I divide them in Yaakov, and scatter them in Israel. You, Yahudah, your brothers praise you. Your hand is on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children bow down before you. Yahudah is a lion's cub. From the prey you have gone up, my son. He bowed down. He crouched like a lion. And like a lion, who rouses him? The scepter shall not turn aside from Yahudah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him is the obedience of peoples. Binding his donkey to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine, and his robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Zebulun dwells at the seashore. He is a haven for ships, and his border is unto Sidon. Yissaschar is a strong donkey lying down between two burdens. And he saw that a resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant, and he inclined his shoulder to bear a burden, and became a subject to slave labor. Dan rightly rules his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan is a serpent by the way, an adder by the path, that bites the horse's heels, so that its rider falls backward. I have waited for your deliverance, O Ancient of Days. Gad, a raiding band raids him, but he raids its heel. Bread from Asher is rich, and he gives delicacies of a sovereign. Naphtali is a deer let loose. He gives words of elegance. Yosef is an offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree, an offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree by a fountain. His branches run over a wall, and the archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. But his bow remained in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty one of Yaakov. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel, from the Eloth your father who helps you, and by El Shaddai, who barak you with Barakoth of the Shamayim above, Barakoth of the deep that lies beneath, Barakoth of the breasts and of the womb. The Barakoth of your father have excelled the Barakoth of my ancestors, up to the limit of the everlasting hills. They are on the head of Yosef, and on the crown of the head of him who was separated from his brothers. Binyamin is a wolf that tears. In the morning he eats prey, and at night he divides the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father spoke to them. And he baraked them. He barak each one according to his own barakah. And he commanded them, and said to them, I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite as a possession for a burial site. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Yitzchak and Ribkah his wife. And there I buried Leah, the field purchased, and the cave which is in it, from the sons of Heth. And when Jacob ended commanding his sons, he drew his feet up into the bed and breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. Chapter 50. And Joseph fell on his father's face, and wept over him, and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel, and 40 days were completed for him, for so are completed the days of embalming. And the Mitzrites wept for him 70 days. And when the days of weeping for him were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, If, now, I have found favor in your eyes, please speak in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, See, I am dying. Bury me in my grave, which I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. And now, please let me go up and bury my father, and return. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father, as he made you swear. And Joseph went up to bury his father. And with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Mitzrayim, and all the house of Joseph, and his brothers, and his father's house. Only their little ones, and their flocks, and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, and they lamented there with a great and very heavy lamentation. And he observed 7 days of mourning for his father. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning for the Mitzrites. That is why its name was called Abel Mitzrayim, which is beyond the Jordan. And his sons did to him as he had commanded them. For his sons brought him to the land of Canaan, and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite as property for a burial site. And after he had buried his father, Joseph returned to Mitzrayim, he and his brothers, and all who went up with him to bury his father. And when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, What if Joseph hates us, and pays us back all the evil which we did to him? And they sent word to Joseph, saying, Before your father died, he commanded, saying, This is what you are to say to Joseph. I beg you, please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. And now, please forgive the transgression of the servants of the Elohim of your father. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. And his brothers also went and fell down before his face. And they said, See, we are your servants. And Joseph said to them, Do not fear, for am I in the place of Elohim? And you intended evil against me, but Elohim intended it for good, in order to do it as it is this day, to keep a great many people alive. And now, do not fear, I provide for you and your little ones. So he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. And Joseph dwelt in Mitzrayim, he and his father's household. And Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the 3rd generation. The children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were also brought up on Joseph's knees. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am dying, but Elohim shall certainly visit you, and bring you out of this land to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Jacob. And Joseph made the children of Israel swear, saying, Elohim shall certainly visit you, and you shall bring up my bones from here. And Joseph died, being 110 years old. And they embalmed him, and he was placed in a coffin in Mitzrayim.